but thanks for listening. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome to We Say Things, episode 18, sponsored by
18.
Fractal Design. SUNSfan here with the great syndereN. How are you, friend? We're both super jet lagged from our respective trips. Yours was in China, 6-hour difference for you. Mine was in Denver, 1 hour difference from me. We both got back recently. How are you doing, friend?
I'm okay. Yeah, I didn't sleep too much this night, but I don't know if I expected to anyway. And I slept quite a lot on the planes, so I think overall I'm feeling pretty good. So
Good. You didn't get stuck behind or stuck next to any babies or completely obese Americans.
no, as a matter of fact, I actually had an empty seat next to me, so I could use my legs. That was great.
Wow. That's, I
That
went
is
on the plane.
the dream.
I was very fortunate. This was only a 2-hour flight, and I want to see what you would have done in this situation if it was a longer flight. So I have to get, I always check in and book my flights and choose my seats. Always aisle seats for me, okay? Because I have restless legs, which I take pills for, and it definitely helps. But still, I need to be able to stretch my legs. It's really bad during flights.
Okay.
So, these 2-hour flights aren't a big deal. But again, just pretend this is like an international flight. So
Right.
I go up to my seat. It's way in the back of the goddamn plane because it was the only seat that was available. And I see somebody sitting in my seat. And I go up to him like, I'm sorry, sir, I think you're in my seat. And he looks at me, he's like, ugh, I'm not feeling too good. Do you mind if I just sit here instead? Like, ugh. All right, where were you sitting? Thankfully, it was not a middle seat, but it was a window seat in the same row. So I sit there, and I am so So I had to bring 2 carry-ons. So one is in the upper part, and I have to put my bag underneath my chair because I thought I would have leg room being in the aisle, but it's not. So super uncomfortable the entire flight. So question is, would you do that if it was an international flight? 10 plus hours. 8 plus hours, let's say.
If it was genuine, then yeah, I would.
No questions asked. What if he was faking it?
No, I don't think it makes that big of a difference whether you sit aisle or window. For me, it doesn't make that big of a difference.
What if it was middle?
Still, not that big.
Really? You would not
Yeah,
that? How is that not
'cause
a big deal?
The thing for me that matters is if there's an empty seat next to it. That's what has value. Because apart from that, you don't really have much more leg space by sitting on either side or the middle. It doesn't really help very much.
I disagree. You can stretch
And I mean,
constantly in the aisle.
And then even if there was a difference, it's still, if there's a guy who's feeling bad and it helps, then, I think he wants to sit on the aisle seat so he has quick access to the bathroom, right? So he can get out if he needs to throw up or whatever it is, if he has diarrhea. Which is probably why you want aisle seats, and it has nothing to do with the legs, actually.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I told you it's one of my biggest fears is actually taking a dump on a plane. I just can't stand the idea of somebody sitting outside the door waiting for me for literally 20 minutes. The last time I've taken
outside the door.
The last time I've taken a dump on a plane, how long do you think it was?
I don't know, 10 years.
Over 20 years. Isn't that unbelievable considering
Damn.
how much I fly?
That's crazy. I
like my
wasn't
body
even born
knows.
then.
Yeah, okay, buddy. Nice try.
You can pretend.
But to put a conclusion to the story, I was very cynical, thinking maybe he's faking it just to get a better seat. But he actually left in a wheelchair, so he was quite sick indeed.
Okay.
Hopefully he's feeling better if he's watching, which is doubtful.
Well,
Anyway,
I can tell you my quick cynical story from this
okay,
TI.
sure.
So we went to the after party, and I went there pretty early. I went there 20 minutes after it opened, and I figured, okay, maybe there's some people here. There was literally no other players or talent there yet. So I walk in, and there's just like these people, the waiters are just standing around the walls. It's like, imagine you walk into a room, there's 20 people just looking at you, walking around in your jean shorts, That was pretty much my experience going in there, just looking at me, walking around, looking for people. I didn't find anyone. No, but the real story is when I got to the elevator, I met a guy at the elevator. And he's like, hey, are you here for that Dota thing? And then he was like, sorry, stupid question. You have the lanyard on, so of course you're here for Dota. I was like, hey, who are you? What do you do here? I am a deckhand on Gabe's yacht. I was like,
what?
I was like, it's like part of me wanted to believe it, and another part of me was like, that sounds like the type of lie you would make up to come into the after party, right?
What?
But it turns out it was right. His yacht was there, his deckhand. There was like a bit of an entourage that came to the after party as well, and were at TI.
Damn.
So yeah, That was pretty. It was
So
just imagine you go to the after party and this is what people say. Like somebody random you've never met before is like, "I'm a deckhand on Gabe's yacht." He even called him Gabe.
so he didn't fly there. He took a goddamn yacht. Holy
I
shit!
don't
What a
know.
baller, man.
Supposedly they also did that to Vancouver from Seattle. I think.
Wow.
That's what I heard as well. But I don't know. I don't know if I don't know how big the yacht is. If it sailed the whole way, or if it was on a bigger, it can get like mounted on a bigger ship or whatever to get brought over. I have no idea.
It was probably dropped off from the spaceship first, and then
Probably
the
yes.
yacht dropped in the water. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude,
No.
Gabe is a goddamn. He's my hero. I think he's super rich. He buys these cool toys and whatnot, but you just see him on the street, you'd have no idea. He looks
Yeah.
like it'd be just if I was super rich, it'd be the same thing. I'd be walking around in pajama pants instead of shorts, which he has, but sandals as well. That sounds like the life, just not giving a shit what people think. That's unfortunately, I'm just missing the money aspect, just a small little detail. But yeah.
You can buy a little toy boat.
Thanks, syndereN. Anywho,
You're welcome.
So most of this episode is going to be Dota 2 related, TI9 mostly. Let's talk about your experience at TI9, my experience at Jungle Jam, and then we'll talk about the tournament itself and then go from there. So,
Okay.
how was your experience overall?
So
How much pool
there's a
did
lot
you
of stuff.
play? syndereN?
Very little, but I did play a
Really?
tiny amount because there was a pool table at the late game, where they had the late game. They had a table outside, so I played like a couple of rounds, but that was all. Yeah, I would say overall, I'll try to summarize it relatively quickly because there's so much to talk about, right? But I would say it wasn't the best TI for me, and it also wasn't the worst. It was somewhere in like the middle, maybe slightly lower part. And there's a couple of reasons why. First of all, it's in China, which for someone like me is a limitation. Like you can't communicate as well with what's going on around. There's not the same incentive to go out. You don't really have the same like feeling of, oh, let's just go out for dinner, because you kind of, maybe you can speak English there, but it's still it's inconvenient. You can't really navigate as easily. You don't know where things are to the same extent as when you are in the US or Canada, right? It's just a language barrier thing, which is totally fine. That's one thing. Then this year, I felt like it was a bit more separated, where in the previous TIs, I felt a little bit more of a unison between players and casters and even the audience. This year was a little bit more like casters had their area, players had their areas, and the audience were out there, obviously. And the majority of the audience was Chinese, so it didn't have as much interaction in general. Which was both good and bad. It was more relaxed, but at the same time, it was also maybe took out a little bit of the hype as an English caster. And I think this might sound a little silly, but I think part of the reason it felt less in unison was that one of the things that's been a common thing at previous TIs has been the midnight snack. I guess you remember that.
Yeah.
Where players and talent will come down at like midnight and there will be some like late snack like pizza or wings or whatever it is. And it wasn't there this time. And that's been one of the primary ways that talent and players mingled, because that's when, the day's over, you're chilling, you come down there, you have a drink and you eat some food and maybe you play a little board game or whatever. But we didn't really have that, so didn't get to see the players as much as I would have liked. Overall, the venue was pretty similar, I would say. I thought the catering was worse than
kind of
what
food
we
did you
had in
guys
both Seattle and Vancouver. They had different stuff. They had both Western and Eastern food, so it wasn't because the selections were not good. As far as the hotel that we were at, the buffet was good, very good. It wasn't like outstanding. People were hyping it up like crazy, saying it's the best shit ever. I thought it was definitely good, but not like crazy great. The rooms were nice, similar again to what we usually have. And yeah, is that it? Transport was really good. The infrastructure was actually very well planned out, which I think some people were concerned about, but our shuttles were very frequent and the distance wasn't that bad. It took like 15 minutes to drive to the arena, and we only got into heavy traffic like once in 6 days. So that was pretty good.
Was it smoggy at all? When I was in Shanghai, it wasn't.
Yes,
Really?
it was in the evening of one day, I think. It depends, right? Because what's smoggy? The Shanghai Tower, it's like the third tallest building in the world or something. When you looked up at the top of it, you couldn't really see the top. It was kind of like dystopic. It has all these lights, and then they kind of just converge into like a darkness within a cloud.
So it would have been
like
great
somewhere
on our evil buildings, I think is the
Yeah, it would
subreddit.
have been, yes. And it looked like where if Lord of the Rings took place now, that is where they would have taken Gandalf when they caught him. So that was what I was thinking.
Okay.
It actually looked like really scary.
Did you play any basketball on that tennis court?
I did not, no. But the plenty of other people played. It was like they had reserved the court every night at 10. I think there was quite a lot of basketball going on.
Yeah, that's a really hard court to play on. The
you
ball
played there
bounces
before?
way too much. Yeah, I was at the super. So same hotel as a super major, a really good hotel. The buffet, which I'm guessing it was the same. They have like different sections of the buffet.
Vast variety, yes.
Huge variety, and like little. It was almost like each country has a little section, and one of them was like a Middle Eastern. I had shawarmas every day, and I lived in the Middle East. This is the best hummus I've ever had in my life. I ate it every day.
I actually didn't try the hummus there.
Oh, syndereN.
Maybe a mistake. Well,
4 or 5 days in a row, I had it.
You didn't advise it.
And then because of it, it just caught up to me, and I had the worst diarrhea of my entire life, actually, to the point where I was actually late for one of the days, and they had to deliver Imodium to my room, the hotel, prescription Imodium. Never seen that before, and it fixed me right up. So that was great. Great experience in China, But so
yeah, is there anything else you want to know though about my experience? Like, did I not cover something? Like the quality of games, I guess.
We can get to that as we go over the actual tournament. Yeah. But your overall experience was average, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, for events, it was great. For TI, I would say it was overall average. Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know if yeah, of course, one last thing. The arena was in Chinese, but that's just how it's going to be in China, right? But obviously that, as an English speaker, that takes away a little bit of the arena feel and experience, because the stuff that's live on the screens, they ran production in multiple languages this time, and they were like synced up so that the players would walk on stage and all of the streams would be synced up with the fact that was happening. So like priority events happened at the same time on every stream, but outside of that, the streams didn't play the exact same content. So there would be one interview shown in the arena in Chinese, and then when you go on the English stream, they're playing something completely different. So you couldn't like hear what was happening in the arena, basically, which was a bit of a shame, I guess, but it makes sense, right? They have different flows and different things they want to show. So.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any way around that anyway.
No, not really. Actually, you know what? One more thing. People actually want to talk about that later. It's fine. We'll get to it later.
Okay. All right. So my experience at the Jungle Jam in Denver, Colorado. So in a lot of ways, this was kind of like a beta test for the Midas mode, since it's going to be the same venue. The only huge negative that we had was the AC was horrific. In fact, they didn't have AC, so I was just constantly sweating. And the couch that they had was a leather couch, so it was like my back and ass would be drenched in sweat every day. I'm sure I smelled just terrific. But a lot of fans showed up, one of which was a great friend. Glex actually showed up. Very cool to interact with
from
people.
Han you worked with or something, right? Or
no, not from... No? I think did we play Han? I can't remember if we went that far back, but I'm sure you've played with him at some point. But anyway, people brought me Krispy Kreme, syndereN.
Oh, hell
Glex brought me, I believe, 3 dozen. Somebody else brought me 2 dozen. Somebody else said, hey, do you want me to go get you Krispy Kreme? Because I know you were asking for it. I'm like, no more fucking Krispy Kreme, please. Way too much.
You said no to Krispy Kreme?
I did. I gained a lot of weight at this event, not going to lie. After every day, we would go and eat at Denny's because we're disgusting human beings, and they had this. Oh dear. They had this cinnamon roll pancakes, syndereN, with cream cheese icing and whole. I'm not going to lie. Even though it's Denny's, and I think IHOP's infinitely better, it was one of the best pancakes I've ever had, and we had that every night, like 3 or 4 nights.
And then you shat yourself.
More other people more than me. Let's just say that.
Wow,
I reacted
that is
relatively.
Actually. I'm gonna call you bluff on that one. He's mafia.
Speaking of mafia, have you played One Night Werewolf before?
I have, yeah. I think so, at least. I've played Werewolf. I don't know if it was One Night.
No. So One Night Werewolf, I'm just gonna say this right now, is the best party game ever invented. It's not even close.
It's the second best, probably behind Codenames.
No. We had Codenames. Nobody wanted to play it.
Godlike game. It is the best game.
You're a goddamn nerd. You know that?
I know.
You don't
but
laugh.
I'm a good kind of nerd.
So anyway, we played so much One Night Werewolf that the hotel actually banned us from playing anymore. So we might be looking for a new hotel for Midas Mo. We'll see.
Wait, what? Because you were taking up space or what?
We're just too loud. Having too much fun, you know?
Right, yeah,
But,
that's not allowed in Denver.
Yeah, exactly. Weed is, though, of course. But yeah, the event itself was a lot of fun. I got to, I've been away from Dota for quite a while, and I finally got to just sit down and watch games. I watched almost every single main event game, and I learned a lot, and it got me so much more excited for Dota. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
Did you guys cast or did you watch the casts?
So we had a little bit of like normal casting with like Moxie and Gareth. But when I was involved, which is probably like 2/3 of the broadcast, it's just like Summit style on the couch.
Okay.
So not super hyping it, but occasionally calling team fights. But I'm not gonna lie, I really, really enjoyed watching Dota again, and I can't say that has been the case for the last year.
It's because you're an OG fan.
OG and Liquid. Liquid is basically Team Middle East. So
this is true.
So there is one more thing which I'm just gonna hint at right now, just for a future episode. There is an absolutely unbelievably hilarious thing that happened, but I can't talk about it yet, guys. You're gonna have to wait for next week, hopefully.
Damn, what a cliffhanger in the middle of the episode.
Cliffhanger. All right.
Wait, one more thing. What was the audio?
Hello? Hello? Oh God, is that me? Can you guys hear me?
Okay, I'm back now. All right.
It's you.
Just my internet died for like 30 seconds. I'm back now. You hear me?
Perfect. Typical Denmark or Danish.
Are we normal again?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, we're normal. Okay, so I asked what the crowd interaction was like. Like if you had a good crowd, if people had fun, if it was like what it was like compared to other events with crowd.
Yeah, I think it was much more intimate, which is what we're kind of going for. I mean, I wouldn't say a ton of people showed up. It's not like it was packed. Like this is a huge venue, tons of computers. So a lot of people were playing on the side. Then you have this little section roped off for like watching the games and whatnot. And, I want to say 50% of the time that I wasn't on panel or casting, I was in the crowd, just sat down on a couch and started watching, and people would just come up and start talking. And I don't know. It didn't feel like what's the best way to put it? Like TI. If I was at TI and we just interact with fans, it's just very brief, autograph here, autograph there, whatever the case may be. This is more you're actually having conversations with people, which I found much more engaging. I guess is the best way to put it. I liked it. It was quite good.
I can kind of relate to that with what happened with the development of TI, because when we used to be in Benaroya Hall for TI 2 and 3. It was a totally different atmosphere. Like people were much more conversational. You were like closer to fans. You were closer to other teams and broadcast crew and everything. And then when they moved to a bigger venue, that's the price you pay. You lose that intimacy, but you get the size. So that's cool. That's good to hear. That sounds like it was fun.
Yep, it was. Right. Okay, so let's move on to TI9 itself. I believe the end prize pool was 34,323,968. My prediction of 35 million, just a little short, but fucking close enough, syndereN. Let's be real. Okay,
I don't remember what my prediction was. Was it 31
was
or 32?
31 or 32. It was wrong, whatever it was.
Yeah. Okay, rub it in.
So group stage, I guess I should first mention, was considered the best group stage of all time. Would you agree with that? Most competitive?
Most competitive, yes.
Okay.
I guess it depends on your metric. Then that's also the best, right? I suppose. So yeah. Okay. I can agree.
So upper bracket, the teams were LGD, VP, Vici Gaming, TNC, OG, Newbie, Team Secret, and EG. By the way, I should have mentioned, although you guys should know, there's going to be spoilers, obviously. I mean, come on. I mean, Twitch already spoiled it for everybody, right? With that,
that was an alpha move by Twitch.
That's pretty fucked up. Oh, by the way, I should have mentioned for the Jungle Jam, it was really hard not spoiling myself. I couldn't go on Reddit or Twitter for 90% of the event. Like at first I was like, I'm probably not going to be able to do that, but I actually did it. Didn't spoil myself. I was proud.
But you spoiled yourself in the bathroom.
That's another story, syndereN. So in the end, Nip and Chaos got completely last place.
Sorry, I meant soiled. Sorry, go on. Yep.
Thank you. Well, Nip and Chaos also soiled themselves by getting last place and just didn't make it through the group stage. So they got 18th, 17th, whatever you want to call it. Alliance, Fnatic. We can stop at any point, by the way, each line. Up to you. Alliance, Fnatic, Keen, and Na'Vi got 13th through 16th. Alliance, their story was very sad. I actually cast this game.
Yeah.
They random Gyro instead of banning him because they ran out of time. And I believe the button is the same location, right, for ban and pick?
Yeah. So basically, when you're in any phase and it's the last ban of the phase and you have the following pick in the same phase, if you run out of time entirely, you get a blank ban and then it turns into pick. And at the same second they wanted to ban Gyro, they ran out of time, so they had a blank ban and insta-pick Gyro on their 9th pick of the draft, which is a huge shame. I talked to Insania about it. I asked what they wanted to pick instead, and I think he said Axe or who was it? It was Axe or another initiate type offlaner, I think, because they ended up with a lineup where they had very limited catch, and they were hoping to have an offlane hero to do that.
Yeah, and they had to use Void, who's their position 1, becoming a position 3. So it was really sad to see. But afterwards, because again we didn't spoil ourselves, afterwards we looked at the clips of the cameras and whatnot. It seemed like the team was super supportive and not toxic at all, which is great to see, obviously. So that's.
I hope I won't have too many problems. My net just died for 30 seconds again. Not sure what's going on.
30 seconds as he disconnects again. So disappointing.
All right, what is happening with my
syndereN.
internet? Actually,
can you please fix your shit internet? Huh?
I don't know what's going on.
Do you want to restart your modem?
No, it's whatever. Just keep going. The disconnects are like 30 seconds long, so it's not like I'm totally dying. I'm just
good.
Cutting
it's not
out.
like you
I'm
listen to
assuming
me
it won't
anyway.
keep happening
Yeah.
No, it makes no difference for me. It's for the audience's sake.
All right.
Yeah.
Moving.
Yeah, I'll just quickly, for every team we talk about, I'll just quickly give like my 2 seconds impression with how they played.
Okay.
I think Alliance, I expected them to not finish top 8, but the way they got out was obviously a shame. I think they could have won that game if they had a normal draft that they wanted, so they can always have they're going to have these regrets of what if, which always sucks. Fnatic, I thought would do better than this based on groups, but they ended up getting less, so that was a bit of a disappointment for them. Keen was very difficult to place. I feel like they were hot and cold in the group, so it is, if they had a bad best of 1, that's how it goes. And for Na'Vi, it was actually probably the biggest shame. They were 7-3 in groups, and then they lost 6 games in a row in groups to get lower bracket, and then they lost the best of 1. If they would have won, I think only 1 of their last 6 games in groups, they would have got upper bracket, and instead they got last, which is a huge shame for them. Yeah. It was still a great showing, but man, imagine that you're really high on getting to upper bracket as an underdog team, and then things just come crashing down. You lose 7 games straight.
Yeah, that's rough. Hurt. Super rough.
Yeah.
Going through 9th through 12th, VP, TNC, Newbie, and Mineska. Obviously, VP is the big one. They have just failed at TI time and time again. It doesn't matter how good they are throughout the entire season. It's almost like I talked to a few people about this. It's not even a curse. I feel like they're much more relaxed at other tournaments. It almost feels like they don't care about these other tournaments, and they end up doing really well. And then TI, they take seriously. Of course, this is just an outside perspective, so it might be horribly wrong, but they take it super seriously and then fail horribly for whatever reason. But that's just the way it goes sometimes. And of course, later in the episode, we're going to talk about potential roster swaps. Yes. Don't worry. I bought time for you. I
actually can't believe I have no idea what you said. This is going to be a great episode. Imagine you listen to a podcast and you hear everything twice.
syndereN, we aren't memeing when we used to cast. You literally never listened to me, so that we can do
That's
this.
Not true. See, I just listened to you.
That's true. All right, not literally then.
Okay, so I'm not exactly sure what you said, but I'll just quickly again. VP, you mentioned that the last thing I heard was that you said they play less seriously or take other events less seriously, and it makes them better.
Yeah.
And I really think the pressure gets to them at TI because they're kind of almost cursing themselves by putting so much pressure on themselves instead of playing like they usually do. And that's a real thing. For some teams, that can be a big problem. And maybe VP should have looked into getting a sports psychologist, which OG had. I guess we will maybe talk about that later. TNC, I think, disappointed with 9th through 12th. They actually played really well in groups. They had a lot of standout games and really good performances, but couldn't do it on the big stage. Newbie, I think this is probably where you would place them going into the tournament. Maybe you would even have placed them 13th through 16th, so it kind of delivered to expectations. But again, they had a good group stage, so people thought maybe they would get top 8. So they started upper bracket. And finally, Mineski, I think many people thought would get dead last, and they almost knocked out Secret. Arguably, they should have actually knocked out Secret in the lower bracket. So I think it was a pretty good showing from them, especially cool to see like a newcomer like Nico Baby that pretty much the majority of the audience, I think, didn't even know existed. Did this well at TI on his first try. So he played well, in my opinion. Yep.
All right, 7th to 8th, we got RNG and Infamous. Obviously, Infamous is the big story here. A South American team gets top 8. Unbelievable. A lot of people picked them to be dead last.
Me too, actually. I think.
What are your thoughts on the implications of this going forward for South America in general?
I think it's really good because this team gets massive international experience and they're going to bring that home. And it's going to, they have a better understanding of Dota than any other team in the region now, probably. So other teams can learn from them and get better. And it's going to narrow the competition overall. Especially if Valve keeps having at least one designated slot for SA, I think it's important that at some point they step up and start getting results because it makes the tournaments less competitive if there's always one team that you're just like, this team's going to bomb outlast almost every time. So it's super good that they did well. I think especially their core players were really impressive to me, and their support Schofield played super good Dota. I think both Chris Luck and Hector might get offers from NA. We'll see. That's maybe the concern here for SA is did they do too well so that their players get poached and they end up losing their power position and then it gets overtaken by Pain. But yeah, I mean, awesome tournament for them. And obviously, when it comes to the prize money, they're set for a long time. This is a lot of money in Peru.
Yeah. So that's the thing I'm a little bit worried about is perhaps the money will make them complacent. But it could have the thing that I think it will definitely happen is people that didn't make the tournament that watch them that are in South America will get inspired. That's one thing that will probably happen for sure. It's just, will Infamous be complacent coming out for this season? I'm not sure. Like, I can't pick, you're right. The money goes a long way in South America for sure. So remains to be seen.
About RNG, I think top 8's a fine result for them. I don't think they were that hot. A lot of people were saying that they would be one of the top guns of the tournament because apparently they had been owning in scrims. But scrims and games are not the same thing. And
every single year we go through this, right?
They started off really slowly, but they did pick it back up and got top 8. And considering how bad their group stage went in the start, where they might even have got dead last, their recovery was pretty decent. It wasn't liquid tier, but it was still really good recovery that they made. So I think all in all, the top 8 is a good placement for them, I would say. It's pretty fair.
All right, 5th, 6th, we got EG and Vici Gaming. Vici Gaming obviously was upper bracket to start, and then they just dropped like a rock for the most part after winning one series. EG, obviously very disappointing for them. They're used to getting 3rd place the entire year. Something that I noticed, and we'll talk about this on our predictions for roster swaps and whatnot, they played a shit ton of Sven, Lifestealer. I felt like Arteezy was playing like the same hero over and over. And I know a lot of people on Reddit are blaming Bulba. Like, who knows? I'm not going to put any blame.
It's speculation.
Exactly. I did not like their drafts felt very transparent and predictable to me personally as a caster. What did you think?
I think that was their biggest weakness. I agree 100%. When we got to the later stages of the tournament, I feel like this generally happens, especially at TI, because the tournament is so long. So if you come in with a handbook of that's got a couple of key strategies that you want to play, you're going to burn them out and people are going to get prepared for it and do something different. I think that was the reason that the teams that got further did get further, was that they were better at adapting. Like, they picked up new strategies, they had more heroes they could play, they had the confidence to try something new. And for the most part, for me, EG kind of stuck to their guns, which they have done at previous lands too. And I think that is the reason they kept getting 3rd, was that when they got to this later portion, whereas now it's time to beat the big teams, the other teams just had deeper pools. They had more options. They had more strategies. That doesn't mean it's Bulba's fault. Like, there's some person pressing the buttons on the draft, but it's a team thing. It's about, do the players have the confidence? Do they feel comfortable playing other stuff? Are they willing to say fuck it and just play something they haven't played before? Like Secret all of a sudden are just like, we'll play Nisha Wisp. We think we can do it. We've seen other teams play Wisp, and then they do it and win a game, right? And EG, there wasn't that like surprise factor that you saw from the top 4 teams. That was just missing. And I think absolutely that was the biggest problem. It was strategy. I don't think they individually played bad. I think Sumail had an outstanding tournament. I think the supports played super solid. Like all of their players, I think, played some of the best Dota they have all year, and they got 5th, 6th. So, that's got to be disappointing, right? I don't think you can point to anyone and be like, this guy threw their games, that's why they lost. Not really. Like they played pretty well. As far as Vici goes, I had them picked to win the whole thing going into the tournament. After the groups, I switched it over to thinking LGD would win. But yeah, Vici Gaming, I wouldn't say they fell victim to the same problem as EG, but a little bit. They also didn't have the biggest depth or make the right decisions in strategy. And they just had a couple of games where they got run over, basically. And, then you
feel
don't
like
get
after
top
they
4.
won one series in the upper bracket, they just fell
They got
apart
outmatched.
after losing to LGD. They just got destroyed by everybody. 4th place, Team Secret, who I picked to win the entire tournament. Better showing than they had in the past. That's for sure. Obviously, they're still disappointed. I personally think that I think Yapsor did not look particularly great in a lot of these games where I'm like, it felt like he was playing less greedy than I'm used to seeing him play historically.
Yeah, I could agree with
And
that.
it didn't feel like he had as much impact as a result. But the team overall, I thought they adapted relatively well. Like you said, they picked up Wisp like in the middle of the tournament. I don't know how much they played it, but it worked out in most of the games. They lost one with that, I believe. But 4th place for Secret overall, still really good showing. And I'm going to say this going like into the into the predictions for the roster subs. I feel like they should definitely keep their team as is, because it feels like every year they do well all year long, and then TI is put on this pedestal, right? Which we've had this conversations many a time. But they always switch out like 2 players, sometimes 3, and they bring in these newer players that we haven't really heard that much about, that have been on like these tier 2, tier 3 teams, and they perform really well, which you can attribute to Puppy. I feel like is the biggest contributing factor. It's time to just let it sit for another year. I feel like they're going to have even a better year than they had, honestly.
Yeah. The speculation that I have heard with Secret is that supposedly maybe mid one will take a break. Not sure. Like, this is all. There's so much, fiend or speculation and whatnot going on in the community and among the players. But I do think Secret had a really good year as well, and I think changing 1 player or 0 players is probably the best move, in my opinion. I think if you change the dynamics around too much, it's way more of a gamble, and you clearly have a recipe that works. You had very good placements. Pretty much every single tournament you played, you got top 3, except TI where you got 4th, which is, better than top 3 in other tournaments because of how fierce the tournament is. So, yeah, I think they've had a great year. But yeah, if it turns out that mid one takes a break, we'll have to wait and see who they get in. And if he doesn't, yeah, I think it's still super good. So,
How
talking
about their
players
at TI?
Yeah, exactly. So talking about players, I think mid one had a rough 2 days at the start of the main event. I think he did not play his best Dota at all, but he picked it up, and that's why they got 4th. I think if he hadn't woken up when he did, they would have not beaten Mineski, I think.
Yeah, that was
so then they would have got
game.
7th, 8th. Because they got 2 rounds further. They beat Mineski and then they beat VG. And yeah, I think it was important that they got mid one back on track. Not sure what it was, if it was mentality, if he was feeling bad or whatever, but he got back in there and showed what he can do. So that was a good recovery.
Yep. All right, so moving on to 3rd place, LGD. Obviously started out in the upper bracket and then lost to OG in the semifinals. Yep. They had a very good tournament. I thought for sure it was going to be OG LGD the later the bracket went.
And it should have been.
You think so?
Realistically, it should have been. Yeah.
I think LGD would have put up a better
series,
fight in the finals as well against OG.
I agree with that too. So based on how we saw LGD play against OG, I thought it would have been a better grand final. Like, there was I'm really happy for Liquid to get 2nd. Like, it's an amazing accomplishment. But for the overall tournament in general and what the audience would have been like, it's a bit of a shame, right, that we didn't get a Chinese team in the finals, because it's Chinese home soil. the crowd would have been insane for the finals. It would have made for a different experience. Like whether you're an LGD or an OG fan, it's just more fun when there's like super high engagement from the crowd, whether you hate them or love them, right? Just the fact that they're cheering for some team, then you can cheer against them. That's also great.
It's kind of funny because from my perspective, I love both teams. Like the top three teams in no particular order that I like are Secret, OG, and Liquid. So seeing them both in the finals, I don't even know who I'm rooting for. I'm happy either way, honestly, right?
And that's the thing. Is that a better viewing experience than if you're rooting for one team over another, right? That gets you more invested in the finals. And I found myself in a similar situation as you, where in this final, I was like, okay, there were two things in this tournament that I was primarily rooting for. Number one, that a Chinese team would be in the finals because the crowd would have been crazy. And number two, that we didn't have a repeat winner. And I got neither in the finals. So it was like, one of these two teams will have multiple two-time champions, and there's no Chinese team. So for me personally, like it was great. Dota and OG were fucking amazing, but there could have been. I feel like it could have been more exciting with that factor playing in. But yeah, so what I was saying is, I think LGD should have ended up in the finals. They were up 1-0 against Liquid, and they were up really high. They had a big lead in game 2. And they dropped the ball on one push. Liquid got back in the game, and then they ended up taking it, and then they crushed them game 3. It was like they got way too crazy in the draft. Like, I think the draft that LGD brought to that third game was like doomed almost to lose, which was a shame. Like, you don't want to go out like that.
I remember thinking the same thing. They had a weird lineup.
They had Shadow Fiend, Void.
Oh yeah, Shadow Fiend was the weird one. Yeah, I don't think I'd seen it all
Shadow
tournament.
Fiend. Yeah.
Yeah, and it got dumpstered. Like, it feels like these heroes that have been played, you always see these comebacks, right? And Shadow Fiend is just not a comeback hero. If he dies, you got to get these half your souls back again. It takes time to get back up. He's a reverse
comeback hero.
It's a very weird hero.
It's something I talk about sometimes. There are heroes in Dota where you feel like when you die twice. And Shadow Fiend is one of them.
Yeah.
It's very momentum based.
All right, so second place, as we've alluded to, is Team Liquid. They started out in the lower bracket, best of ones, and they barely got out of that first game, and they completely dumpstered everyone. They 2-0'd everyone until the lower bracket finals, which, as you talked about, was a 2-1 against LGD. Weehaw played incredible. They picked Meepo for him at times, which was always thrilling to see. Really happy for him. Yeah. So this is the thing. I was saying this on the panel for our event. His TA back in the day was not good. So I didn't know what to expect. I was like, I feel like that's more of a miracle hero. But I have to say, Weehaw played really fucking well on TA.
Yep.
I think they picked it too much in the finals, personally. But it is what it is.
But you can read into that what you want, right? It's one thing is you're confident with this guy, but it could also mean that Liquid felt like they were a little bit cornered with Weehaw's options. Like maybe his hero pool wasn't as big as they would have liked. Because then I think they would have picked a bigger variety if they felt like, oh, we can put Weehaw on any of these 10 heroes and he's going to shine. So perhaps there's something there. It's speculation. Maybe they just thought TA was that good, but no other team did. That's why. Like, the hero wasn't even rated high by literally any of the top 8 teams. I don't think anybody even picked it except Liquid in a single game. So that was very different. But yeah, I mean, second place for Liquid. I think they should be super happy and proud. Obviously, it sucks falling short by one game, and Kuro's dream of being the first player with 2 wins together with his teammates. It probably sucks getting that far. But if you take a step back and you look at how your tournament started and how everything went, after the group stage was over, if you put Kuro on the spot and said, hey, you could take second place right now, would you do it? I don't know if you would say yes or no. Like, he's a really fierce competitor. He's playing for the win, right? But objectively speaking, that was a crazy good result with how their event started. So I think they should be super happy.
Agreed. And of course, the TI9 winners, OG, 2 years in a row, the first double TI winner. Of course, in the finals, they went 3-1. It should have been 3-0. That first game was a complete throw. I guess. Well, okay.
Liquid let me just first, explain. Right? If you want to look at it that way.
Okay, but it was more. Okay, so at the end of the game, for those that didn't watch it, Liquid had just gotten pushed against from OG. They almost took the throne, or was close. They got like the tier 3s, I believe. And then they killed a bunch of OG's heroes, most of which had buyback. So Liquid starts pushing towards their base. And as they're in the base, Spectre, which is the carry, Ana, has buyback the entire time. He doesn't use it until like 5 seconds before the throne dies. And you could you could argue that made no difference in theory or in practice or whatever the case may be, considering you're going against a Meepo, but he just never used the buyback, which was really weird.
I think the game call from OG, they knew exactly what was going to happen 30 seconds before it did. So they're talking about what we want to do is we'll let them start on the towers, and then when Jerax is about to respawn, we buy back Ana and we take the fight. Because if OG win that fight in their base and Liquid commit to try to end the game and then they fail the fight, they lose the game.
Yeah.
If you buy back Ana early, Liquid can back off, control the map, get Roshan, and then you're in trouble. So you're playing for that high value play, which I think is great. I think they just did the math wrong. Like they underestimated how fast Liquid could end the game. So Ana bought back too late. But the idea of what OG were trying to do, I think is just objectively the best play, to bait Liquid in so much that you can force that fight. If you lose the fight, you lose the game. If you win the fight, you win the game. But like it's better than buying back really early and having them just back off. So yeah, just the reason it stands out so much is that OG had like no glaring mistakes apart from that the whole tournament.
Yeah, pretty much. And
they recovered
the crazy
really
thing, that's the thing. The fact that they recovered as if nothing had happened, you talked about their psychologist. I mean, that had to have something to do with it, I'm sure. The entire tournament, they just dumpstered everybody. It felt like they were abusing heals. Like every lineup has like a Pugna or like Chen, whatever the case may be, some kind of like healing mechanic, even Wisp. Just unbelievable.
They played 10 heroes that played on regeneration. OG have this... they did something similar last year. They have this ability to go into the tournament with an idea of a mechanic that is really powerful. And the mechanic this year for them was definitely regen and healing. They had Io, Chen, Enchantress, Omni Knight, Abaddon, Alchemist, a couple more. You mentioned 2 or 3 more as well. There's just Trient. They play all these heroes that also in part have damage mitigation, such as Omni Knight with the status resistance, and Trient with the living armor, and Io with overcharge. And similarly, last year, OG had this realization of how powerful damage mitigation was. They ran Io, they ran Spectre, they ran Enchantress again with the Untouchable. Like there were a couple of things again that overlapped that they just understand super well how to play around and how it has an impact on the game. This year they also ran Juggernaut, even without Magnus. They had a couple of games where they used Jugger to push with Healing Ward and Alacrity with Invoker. So yeah, they seem to have a very good... I don't know who is the leader of this in the team. The lead, how to say it, theory crafter or whatever you want, but a lot of credit to the guy who built their strategies because they were extremely sound and very resilient.
Is it true that
a lot of the teams?
Somebody was talking about this. I couldn't tell if they were actually kidding. That when Ana was taking a break and he was party queuing, he would just spam IO carry just for fun, and that's how they came up with that strat.
He has a really high win rate on the hero. He likes IO. As far as I understood, Ana suggested it in the first game they played. He was like, "I want to play Wisp this game," and then they were like, "Okay, Ana, let's play Wisp, I guess."
See, that's the cool thing, is that they just have this really nice attitude for that kind of thing, right? I mean, Thompson kind of is usually the wild card, it feels like. I mean, I think he had 17 kills in like 16 minutes in one of the games in the finals on Pugna. It was like the fact that they're diving tier 2s and tier 3s literally 10 to 12 minutes in the game is unreal.
It shows a super good game understanding because they didn't do that every game. They did it in the right game.
Right.
In that game, Liquid had Tide Enigma. They had like super long cooldowns that are ultra greedy early on, and they had like Monkey King Ember. You just fucking go. Like, I think that game was a pretty big outdraft if Liquid lose the lanes, which they did. Like, you just have nothing to work with. They just got run over. So, yeah, OG were fucking good. I'm really impressed. I didn't think they were going to do this well. I don't think anybody did, really. I mean, sure, there were people predicting OG to win, but probably more wishful thinking than feeling like they are clear favorites.
Well, I think if anything, if nothing else, this proves that last year was not a fluke, right?
Yep.
This
whole fluke thing. This whole fluke thing is a joke anyway. It's a 10-day tournament. You play against tons of teams. You have to show super good resilience. You need to beat the best teams in the world. You can't fluke a win. Like, the whole thing is just absurd. Like, it doesn't make any sense. You could fluke a win if it was one day, right? If it was a one-day tournament, you get a little bit of lucky. You win a couple of games that you weren't supposed to win. But OG fucking fought tooth and nail last year. And they played so well in so many games. Like, people writing it down to luck are just... Honestly, they're just haters. Like, that's all you can say.
Okay,
you don't win this tournament by luck. It's just not a thing.
I agree for the most part, but I do think that you were able to fluke your way to a good result at TI for sure. Just based on a few... A win, that's another story. If you're only, I mean, the idea was that not Notail, but OG was only good for that tournament, and the rest of it just didn't do anything. And it's kind of the same this year, right? They took a break. Anna wasn't even part of the team for like, what was it, 4 or 5 months? But I mean, maybe that's what teams are going to do now. They're going to take a break after TI for till like December or January.
Well,
Then
if everybody
they're gonna
does
start
it,
ramping
they're
up.
not all going to win. So
Yeah, that's true.
it's not going to work like that.
Okay, so moving on, some heroes that kind of caught my eye. I didn't really look at any specific statistics, but Carry Io we talked about. The Tiny Void combo is such a cool idea. So Void, usually the carry hero. Tiny could be played in pretty much any position, but Tiny, like the way that Mid One played it was amazing. He would, I mean, not that this was unique by any means, but I just felt like he did it the best. Play it like the old Tiny, where you get Blink Dagger, Echo Saber, all that stuff. You just burst heroes constantly throughout the game. You're always in front. Then once Void actually starts getting going, then Tiny gets an Ags, and then his role completely changes. I can't think of another hero in the history of Dota that you go from the front line to the back line. It's such a cool concept. You Chronosphere, you throw these fucking trees with your Daedalus, and you just destroy everybody. It's such a sick-ass combo. Really, really enjoyed watching that.
Very broken and will absolutely get nerfed. Tier. Yes. I think there's absolutely zero fucking way that IO Ags and Tiny Ags don't get nerfed really hard. They are stupidly broken right now. And that's, I think, perhaps, like when we talk about the grand scheme of this tournament, I think perhaps part of the reason for me that I didn't feel like it was the greatest TI of all time or whatever when it came to game quality later on was I think the pool of overpowered heroes was too big this year. And I think it's a natural thing that ends up happening when you introduce so many new things. Every hero gets an Ags, you rework heroes, you rebalance heroes, and all of it collides in this big event where everybody comes in with prep. There's going to be a handful of things that are just ridiculous. But this year, the list of heroes that were overpowered actually became, in a way, it was a bit of a shame because it made some drafts, I feel like it was very predictable for the most part, what ended up happening toward the end. Yeah. A bit similar to TI4 vibes, where the group stage was crazy good. The first state of the main event was also great. And then the closer we got to the end, you just realized, okay, Death Ball is just better. And these 10 heroes just trump everything else. And then the grand finals was 4 20-minute stomps, right? And in this tournament, toward the end, everybody knew what the 6 broken heroes were. So the draft bans was pretty predictable. And OG just had a couple of more options, and it made their games a lot easier, I think, to draft and play. So that, to me, is a little bit of a shame. And the thing is, you can't really be mad at Ice Frog and the beta team for it, because a lot of the things that turned out to be imbalanced, people were not complaining about leading into the tournament. Like, there wasn't like massive outrage, wow, carry IO is broken in pubs, or IO Ags is ridiculous, or Tiny Ags is stupid. Like, none of it. It just happened during the event.
I mean, are these things that teams are holding on to strat-wise?
I don't know. Like, that's always going to be a speculation. I think sometimes you can save strats to an extent, but at the same time, you definitely want to burn a strat to get upper bracket. You definitely want to burn a strat once you're in the upper bracket to stay in that upper bracket and win the games. So I think a lot of the stuff kind of just got discovered along the way.
I mean, Carry IO was on the group stage pretty early on, right?
Yeah. OG played it in 2 or 3 games.
It felt like OG was not holding on to any strats. They just shit on everybody.
Yeah.
Another combo that Liquid came out with, by the way, was Alchemist Darkseer. Darkseer was like almost unpicked until that point, and then a bunch of teams started trying it. The Surge with Alchemist getting a fast Radiance was super fucking strong, and I enjoyed watching it personally. Yeah,
Alchemist was super busted this tournament as well.
Good.
Ended up being the most banned. Ended up being the most banned hero. We did not expect that whatsoever going into the tournament, but he just reached a stage now where Alchemist is a strange hero because compared to, like, when you think about it, you break Dota down, it's a numbers game. In essence, it's a numbers game. It's about efficiency, it's about trade-offs, and what you end up getting. It's just the numbers are extremely complex, so Dota never really gets solved, if you know what I mean. Like, there's too many factors. But Alchemist, more than most heroes, is really a math hero. It's like, how much gold do I get compared to everybody else, and can we protect the area so that I get far enough ahead and carry the game on my own? And that means when you tweak an ability like Grieval's Greed just by like 10%, it can totally change the hero because that equation just doesn't favor you as much or more anymore. And at this event, Alchemist was just like, he just got too much fucking gold. Like, what can I say? The hero's just, it's too rich in the game. You can't keep up, and
I mean, here's
it
the
gets
thing.
harder to push towers. So.
Here's my plea to not nerf him too hard. The concept is broken in general. It's one of those heroes that's very hard to balance, I feel like.
Yes.
But he's very entertaining to watch, syndereN. Okay.
Possibly.
Very.
I think there's a couple of heroes like that. A lot of people think it's entertaining to watch techies. They're stupid, but they exist.
Every once in a while in a pro game, it is fun to watch a techies because you don't get to see a wrap. But consistently, no. I consistently love watching Alchemist. I don't know if I'm weird. It's fun.
I don't know. I think I conceptually dislike the hero's design. I think Dota has incredible hero design, and I think maybe out of all the heroes, there are like 5 heroes perhaps that I conceptually dislike, and Alchemist is just one of them.
Wow, that's really disappointing to hear. I just lost a lot
I
of
really
respect
dislike
for you.
Alchemist as a concept. I dislike Brood as a concept. I dislike techies as a concept.
You're
Those are
putting
probably
Alchemist
like my
in the
big
same
3.
tier as fucking techies? Come on. He gets ags for people sometimes.
I didn't say I dislike him more than techies. I was talking about the heroes I conceptually dislike.
what
if you want me
if-
to rank them, techies is number 1. That's the hero I dislike the most.
I
Conceptually.
love these
Absolutely,
rankings.
No question.
Yeah,
No question.
good. And he's on his own tier, right?
Yes.
He's on his own
But yeah,
3
I mean,
tiers.
Overall, to close this off with the heroes, I think there were tons of played heroes. There were tons of banned heroes. We had a great variety. There were only 3 heroes that didn't get picked. Unfortunately, my bike Clockwork is one of them, which kind of sucks. I love that hero. I think he's super fun to watch and play. He's just not in a good spot right now. But yeah, like the variety, it reminds me of TI4, right? And people just, the curse of this with TI is that a lot of the times people remember the later stage of the tournament, right? People are saying TI4 was the worst TI of all time because the finals day was stomps of 20 minutes. And this year's TI had a lot of fucking amazing and really exciting games, but unfortunately, when it got to the end with OG, the grand finals was not that exciting. Like, the games were not that exciting, except maybe game 1, because OG were just destroying. Like, the games were fast. And for the most part, relatively predictable, because they figured it out, right?
I think
and that's where the really memorable finals are, with the really close tooth and nail games where it could go either way. Like 3-2 last year, that finals was fucking incredible. Last year's finals was infinitely better than this year.
Of course.
And it just plays a big role in people's perception of how good the event was, which is, it's down to luck largely. What teams get in the finals, what patch it is. You can try to balance it, but you can't cover all your bases. So
I wouldn't
but
compare this to
still great
TI4 personally. I think it was still a lot better than TI4.
The finals?
Yeah.
Do you think
I know
you
what
would
you're
have
going to
thought
say.
this was a much better finals if it was 2 Chinese teams? Do you
Based on
think
the
your
fact that
perception would have been different?
I think it would have been worse, no doubt, but it still wouldn't have been as bad as TI4. TI4 was just is literally, you win. Like, they weren't even letting the buildings die. You remember what happened. They would just concede when a tier 2 was killed. Literally. Tier 2's killed after a team fight. GG. That was horrible. That's like the worst Dota tournament or the finals I've ever seen for any tournament, ever, in any meta. So this one, yes, it was better no matter what. But yeah, I agree. It was definitely more enjoyable knowing that one of the teams that I liked would win. For sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
So
there's a couple of contributing factors. But I mean, still, regardless, it was absolutely overall, if we take a step back and just look at the entirety of the tournament, in terms of game quality and how many good games we had, it was probably top 3 TI in game quality. It was very good. But if we could have just had that carry over into the final day, it would have been so fucking great. And also an awesome showcase of our game for, a lot of new viewers or beginning players. It's always like the hype of the casters, I think, plays a really big role to new viewers at getting invested. And the games just weren't as hype as they could have been. There weren't these like epic moments as much. So yeah, still great though.
So for the unplayed heroes, you mentioned Clockwork, also Coddle and Ursa. So 3 heroes not played. Any of these surprise you at all? I mean, I'm surprised that somebody played Undying. What the hell was that about? I didn't see the game, but
I honestly think going into the tournament, if you would have told me to choose 5 or 10 heroes that would be unpicked, I would have maybe put Ursa out of these 3, but not the other 2. I thought they would see a little bit of play at least, but yeah, just not the case. But the good news about that is probably my boy Clockwork will get buffed, and maybe Coddle. I like both heroes, and Ursa is one of my favorite carries, so that's great.
How about making Clockwork feel good to play? Forget about damage and mana cost and all that garbage. Make him feel not like a clunky pile of garbage with cast times and all that. That would be great.
Well, they removed the cast time on his first spell. That didn't
On
change
battery
much.
assault? Okay.
Yeah, it has 0 cast point now.
Time
You
for
can cast it while
time for
running.
cogs to get no cast
They
time.
buffed hookshot too before TI. They gave it more stun on level 1. It went from 1 to 1.5. Also didn't change anything.
Just make every one of his skills instant cast. Then he'll be fun to play against, syndereN.
But there's
Sound
a
good?
couple. I feel like there's a couple of problems. There's like one underlying nerf that I never realized until I read a comment about it, which was, there was this patch that changed the minimum melee range.
No.
So every melee hero except Doom and Monkey King used to have 128 range.
Okay.
And then there was a patch that increased the minimum melee range of all heroes to 150, but it didn't increase the range of the cogs. So it means melee heroes can break them from the outside. And in the past, they couldn't do that. So if you caught a hero in cogs, all their melee teammates couldn't help them. Now you can
Right.
help them get out. He gets super fucking hard countered by Force Staff, which is a great item right now. There's just some underlying problems. There's plenty of ways you can buff Clockwork. You could make the cogs have 3 health once again. They have 2 on all levels, which is a mega nerf.
No.
Yeah, you
I
could
thought it was
nerf
2, 2,
Force
2,
Staff
3.
interaction with cogs.
Is that not the case?
It used to be, but now it's just 2 on all levels.
Oh.
That was a massive nerf to the hero. And it got massive mana cost increase. Like, this spell used to be literally twice as good as it is right now. It used to cost 50 mana instead of 80. It used to have 3 health on level 4. It used to mana burn more. Like, everything about it just got worse, I think. And he was at that point, it was a very strong hero, no doubt. He got hit too hard, but it's difficult to balance. So
I'm sure he'll get a nice little buff.
I love the hero to death. It's one of my favorite heroes of all time.
Are you expecting a huge patch, by the way?
Yes, absolutely.
How long?
1 to 2 weeks, I think.
Really? That's it?
That would be my guess. Yeah, I think in 1 to 2 weeks we get a really big balance patch, and then I would expect the Spitfire patch to drop in 2 months, maybe. And then what's it called? 1 or 2 months for Spitfire, and then longer for Void Spirit. But I guess we'll talk about them soon.
What?
So.
Well, they're going to come out at the same time. Anyway, we'll
No, I don't
talk
think
about
so.
that in a soon. You don't? Okay, well, just remember that we're having this conversation. So,
Cool. Okay.
OG, we obviously talked about them already. Do you think they're the greatest team of all time, and is Notail the greatest player of all time, based on the fact that there was a stat that came out today that didn't fully realize of all the tournaments in Dota 2 history that have been $3 million or more, which there are 12, Notail has won half of them. That's 4 majors, 2 TIs. OG
Okay.
and Notail. Greatest of all time or no?
I have to quickly apologize. All of chat's calling me out for calling the hero Spitfire. It's, of course, called Snapfire. I'm very sorry.
What is Spitfire? What is that from?
I don't know. I think maybe it's a weapon in a shooter or a different game or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, Spitfire is a thing, though. I'm not just randomly saying that for some reason.
It's a plane, apparently.
It's a fighter plane as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah. So back on track. I think out of these 2 statements, the one I agree with more is probably Notail being the greatest player of all time, if you had to pick one. Okay. At least in Dota 2. Like, it depends on what perspective you're taking. If you're thinking all of Dota history, I don't think any of the players from OG are my greatest of all time. But if you take Dota 2 in isolation, I think there's a super good case to make for Notail. Not because he won 2 TIs, but because of what you said. He won a lot of big tournaments. And that's something I think people don't put a lot of stock in, is that when they talk about great players and whatnot, they're always focusing on TI. And yes, it's the greatest tournament, but there's so much more going on throughout the year. There's so many other big tournaments with high-tier competition and really difficult matches. But the fact that Notail has won 4 majors and 2 TIs, that puts him like absolutely top 3 best Dota 2 player of all time. With that kind of results, you just can't argue against it.
Han
2
boys.
TIs. So, for example, let's try to challenge the statement, right? Let's say if you had the logic that it was all about TI, is Thompson the best mid player of all time?
No.
He has won 2 TIs and no other lands, right? So if you think about it that way, and you then transfer that to team, OG as a team, the current roster, have only won TIs. They've won nothing else together.
Yeah.
But the brand has a lot of wins, and the repeating part of that brand is Notail and Seb. I think, has JRX won one of the majors with them? I'm not sure if he did.
2, I think.
He won 2 of the majors with them?
Yeah,
Okay.
so the
then he's
original
definitely played a big
OG
part as well,
won
right?
2 majors, then the next iteration
With
won 2.
Crit, right?
Crit and
The original
Miracle.
OG was with
Yeah.
Crit and Fly. Yeah.
Crit,
And
Miracle,
then,
Fly.
Yes. Yeah. So, like, the constant in this is Notail, for sure. He's been there for all of it. Seb has been there for most of it, and JRX has been there for a lot of it.
Well, most of it for
but
Seb
great.
was as coach. Just need to throw that out there, of course.
Ana also won 2 majors, people are saying. That is also true.
Yeah, he was part of the
He
second
joined
iteration.
after Miracle, yeah. I always statements like these are always really hard, I think. But I would say I think OG as a brand is the greatest team of all time in Dota 2.
Yes.
Because
agreed.
of all their tournament wins. This current iteration, is that the best team ever? I don't know. They've won 2 TIs, but nothing else. Arguably, in a way, previous OG iterations have had higher LAN win rates than this team and qualifier rates. The old team with Miracle or the old team with Ana while Fly was still playing arguably had more powerful runs that lasted longer. They were like consistently top of the circuit for half a year or almost a year and just had bad TIs. But apart from that, they were fucking amazing. So it depends what you put the
So
stock
you can
in,
also
right?
like put EG in the mix, right? They got top 3 one year, first the next, then top 3 again, and I believe top 3 again. Is
and they
that
have
more
had
impressive?
plenty of LAN wins.
Right, and plenty of land wins in between. So it just depends on your criteria.
Exactly. That's why I'm saying these statements are so hard to make. Because if you look over the course of the entire game, I would say no. But I think this is the single greatest accomplishment ever to win 2 TIs in a row, which is
Right.
insane. And it's with the same roster. So that's fucking incredible.
Yeah,
But
I think I would agree with you that
if they go on to
Notail-
have a good year now, or get multiple LAN wins, or play really well throughout the year and being a fierce competitor, not only a TI, I think they're a definite candidate for just the greatest 5-man team ever.
Right.
But yeah, somebody in
if you-
chat
if
is
you
also
wanna-
they're talking about Alliance. I think they're also a good candidate for best team ever, right? Because they had an insane TI run. They were incredible leading into TI, and the following year they were also dominant. Like Alliance were super good.
So
for a
there's
long
a difference
time.
between, in my opinion, and again, criteria is going to change from person to person, between best player / team of all time and most accomplished player / team of all time. Like in the NBA, Bill Russell won 11 championships, I believe. Nobody else comes even close, but nobody considers him the best of all time. So it's just really dependent. So I would consider Notail minimum top 3 player of all time. Like if you just talk about captains alone, Notail, Kuroki, Puppy, probably in that order, honestly.
Yeah, probably.
The only issue
that's
is
fair enough.
Notail maybe not so much early in his career. Puppy has been very consistent throughout his entire career. Kuroki was a little bit shaky at the beginning and now has come on strong, obviously. So
I think
just from
Puppy and
captain.
Kuro are they're really good candidates for greatest player of all time because they've played every single TI. They have they have played for multiple top teams in Europe throughout the entire last 9 years. They have always been consistently players to be scared of that are playing in finals, that are winning lands. In Dota 1, they were two of the best players in the West. There was one point when Kuro was regarded as the best player in the world on core. He's played multiple roles. He's always been that's the kind of thing you're up against, and time is not on your side as Notail, right? Because you didn't play Dota 1 and you didn't play the first couple of years in Dota 2, which arguably makes it all that more impressive what he managed to do with the amount of time he's had in the game that he played Han before.
So, yeah, I'm going to be biased because of the Han aspect, but the one thing I will mention, Kuroki has a bit of this as well, but I don't think his success was on the same level as Notail. But Notail has played, we were just talking about this the other day, I think I've seen him play competitively and been successful at 4 out of the 5 positions, which is fucking incredible. Like, I think position 3 is the only thing I don't remember ever seeing him do. But 1, 2, 4, 5. That is mind-boggling. That is, you don't see that at all. Like you saw Sumail, who's considered the best mechanical player of all time, or at least the GOAT for some people, switch to position 3 and it just wasn't the same. But Notail's done that, And for me personally, if I had to pick a player, if I had to choose right now the best player of all time, I'd probably pick Notail. But there's a little bias for sure.
Sure.
So yeah. Okay.
That was a long talk on that. Let's move on.
So I want to talk about this little drama at TI, Kuku getting booed and harassed.
Right.
What were your thoughts on this? So Well, I'll let you go first. Go ahead.
Okay, so like the perspective on this, I think the issue is a little bit complex because I don't think booing is inherently bad. I think booing people in sports or in spectator, whatever it is something that generates drama and tension and makes it more exciting and interesting to watch. So I don't think booing is inherently bad. If people have given you a reason to boo for them, if they've shown like character traits that you disagree with, such as racism or arrogance or talking down to the local teams, like saying, for example, if you go into TI and you make an interview and the interviewer asks you, what are your expectations? And you're like, China is shit. Of course they're going to boo you in the arena, right? Like, what do you expect? So I have no problem with the booing. The thing that's a really big shame is that they booed the entire team. So it wasn't like what you could have done as the audience is when the player introductions came on the screen and Kuku showed, they could have booed that one, but still clapped for the team walking on. But instead, the entire team just got booed. So all of his teammates ended up, you know, in the same shit, basically, which I think was a shame because I don't think they deserve it. About him, if you feel like he deserves it, that's the other side of the issue. Who was actually the primary problem here? Was it Kuku? Obviously, he made a mistake with a statement, but he quickly apologized. But then I think the manager of the team tried to cover it up or whatever, and that's when they like made lies and shit, and that's when it got really out of hand, and Valve eventually made a statement on it. So perhaps Kuku is getting more flack than he deserves relative to how big of a part he actually played in the true drama here. Because, there's been people saying stupid shit in pubs, and then they apologize, and they're like, I'm really sorry, I never should have done that. Seb wasn't booed when he played in Russia the last time because he came clear, and he cleared himself up pretty quickly, and, just sincere apology. There was no bullshit. There was no trying to cover it up. And I feel like Kuku could have maybe been in a similar position if this shit just hadn't transpired. And I don't feel like he alone is to blame. So that kind of sucks a bit.
So what I'll say is I agree with you on one side and disagree slightly on another. So the booing, I agree. I guess it kind of combines. I think if you want to boo somebody, that's perfectly fine. And it makes sense that they booed the team because he's part of the team. It's just like if I do any traditional sport, if I go to an NBA game, Kobe Bryant's playing, I hate that guy's guts. Whatever team he's on, I will hate that team. I will boo their team. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think when it gets over the line is when you start being racist yourself and start harassing him outside the game. That's when it becomes unacceptable.
I'm 100%. Like the people that followed him to the booth and shouted at him, that's just not okay. Like that's it's arguably it's even worse than what he did, right? Because this is in person. It's like it's kind of threatening, It's about personal safety.
Yeah.
When there's like a mob of angry people running after you, that's fucking terrifying. Like I wouldn't want that on the worst enemy I have in the Dota scene. I wouldn't want people to run after them and harass them. Like that's just not a thing. So 100% in agreement with that. I didn't specifically talk about that, but booing and harassment are on two totally different levels for me. Like one is sport and the other one is personal, and you don't make it personal.
So I have to mention, like in traditional sports again, booing somebody is definitely different than like calling them stuff. Like literally booing, that's fine. If you call them a whore or something very personal, then that's terrible, right?
Right.
That's the line that I would draw personally. Yeah. And I think attributing or combining that with the rest of the team, that's just standard. I feel like that's very normal. But it's just hypocritical when they become racist themselves, right? Which absolutely. I didn't hear any specific stories. I just heard that they were being racist. So I guess I'm just assuming that's true because I don't have faith in people in general. So that's another story. Okay. Moving on. Chinese crowd for the finals. You kind of talked about this before. It was obviously EU versus EU in the finals. So they weren't as engaged. I think that was kind of expected. I feel like it's almost like it was kind of like the TI4. I feel like the US audience, they clapped, but the games were not enjoyable. They weren't as invested. I personally, and at the end of when OG won, I saw a decent amount of people still there clapping. I thought it was fine. I thought that was a little overblown personally. I don't know how you feel since you were actually there.
It's the classic thing, right? With people say they don't want bias, but what they really want is for people to be biased for the stuff that they like, right? Let's be real here. Like that's there would have been no complaints from the Western audience if the finals was LGD against OG and people were cheering like crazy for OG because they're the team that they are fans of and that they want. I think the analogy to TI4 is the perfect one, where you have a Western audience that is watching two Chinese teams play, and there's a big audience, but people just aren't as invested because they don't care who wins. They want to watch good Dota, but unfortunately the Dota wasn't good, so what do you clap for?
Oh, we should also mention that TI4, they're like every TI that have been in the US, there's a good sized Chinese crowd as well, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so the majority of noise really that was going on during the TI finals was
exactly
probably the Chinese fans that were cheering for their favorite Chinese players, which is great. But I mean, like, let's flip it around a bit and let's imagine for a second that this was a TI in, let's just say it was a TI in US again, and the finals would have been LGD versus RNG. I feel like it would have been pretty similar. There would have been some people that weren't invested in the game, maybe some people that didn't even go to watch the finals would have done something else because they were like, I don't really care who wins. The remedying factor is if the games are incredible, because I truly believe that fans of Dota will cheer for crazy and exciting shit, but the games themselves just, again, there were exciting moments, but they were not nearly on the level as, let's say, the TI8 finals in intensity and excitement overall. So that was a shame. I think the complaints would have been way less severe. Then people would have been like, you know what? Okay, like, yeah, sure, they're not cheering as loud as they would have for LGD. That's fine because they were still cheering for the great plays. But, you know, the games were just kind of, you know, largely relatively one-sided, except game one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
and
like
I'm
blaming
trying
people
to remember
for being
the exact reaction.
It's people blaming people for being biased for their region. That's just how it is. That's
but it's a
like,
good thing. Being biased for your region is good. I don't think there's any problem with that. And
it just didn't work out that it was China versus West like it usually is.
Yeah.
Right.
And the reason there hasn't been that many complaints about this the previous years is that the last time this happened was TI4. It's the only other time that there was no Chinese team in the finals. Every other TI has had at least one Chinese team and one Western team, which makes for really exciting Dota because people have a clear favorite that they want to win, so they get invested.
Right.
Like, my memory of the TI4 finals was honestly pretty similar. Like, maybe there was a slightly bigger relative audience in terms of how many seats were filled, but people didn't go fucking crazy for the games or were super hyped for the winners and stood there clapping and cheering for 15 minutes. Like, they cheered, they congratulated the winners, and that was it. You can't force people to get excited about something if they aren't invested. Like,
the one thing I will say,
I just don't know what people expect.
I didn't get to see the full panorama or whatever, but I heard people were leaving the stadium. I think that's a little disrespectful to leave. Like, for example, in TI4, okay, I was casting, so that's maybe a bad example. But if there was two Chinese teams playing, I came to the event. I'm going to stay for the whole freaking game. I mean, this is just a pet peeve of mine in general. Like, if I'm at a Suns game and we're losing, people get up early to beat traffic. God, I can go on a rant about this for days. I fucking hate that shit. People that leave concerts early just to beat the traffic. Oh, God, it makes me so sick to my stomach. So that part, I understand why people get a little upset. But the whole being biased, that's just, I feel like that's normal. That's human nature.
Yeah, what do you want, right? Because at the same time, you don't want, like, let's say it was a Western final in a Western country. You wouldn't want people to cheer averagely because they love each team the same, right? You want them to be fucking passionate. That's what people love, is when the crowd goes wild.
Yeah.
And that's why it would have been amazing if LGD made the finals, because that shit would have been so hype. And people that wanted LGD to win would have been hype, and people that wanted to win whoever their opponents were would also have been hype because there's the tension. And that's just
Do you think it would have been better for Dota if China won this year?
Yes.
As a whole?
And I think the bigger thing would have been that they had a team in the finals. I think that would have been more important than the win itself.
Okay.
Because I think it would have showcased the passion of the fans more to have LGD in the finals. People would have been fucking crazy. So, yeah.
Yeah, and like, I mean, I think we both agree that LGD would have pushed it would have been 4 to 5 games of pretty close Dota, I think, against OG.
I think so. I think it would have been better.
I don't think Liquid matches up very well against OG, at least not at that tournament.
Not that day, exactly, yeah.
Okay, All-Star match. Did you watch this live? I watched the replay.
No.
That's it.
I didn't watch it. I haven't watched it at all.
All right, so we won't talk about it too much. It was all random deathmatch. It was probably the worst show match I've ever seen. It was essentially everyone just running down mid. It's like both teams just agreed to just die constantly, and whoever came out on top came on top. Yeah, pretty much. It felt like a protest almost against doing show matches.
I think in contrast to that, the best All-Star match we've probably had was the one with the crowd, where it was 10 versus 10 and they got audience members to play.
Is that the one where Dendy was Pudge, dressed up as Pudge?
I think so, because what you get by doing that is you get people that are super excited to play with their favorite players, and they just generate hype, right?
Yeah.
Last year they tried to have, I think they had $100,000 prize pool for the fucking All-Star match, and teams were still not taking it very seriously. So
yeah, I think
the
it's
money
less
incentive
about the
doesn't
prize
seem
pool.
to be the solution.
Yeah, so I would say even though it was a stomp, the one that everyone talks about, it was actually one that I cast, was the Techies reveal. He was just in the game.
Right.
Why can't they just have a new hero in the game? That's engaging enough for the audience. Like, even if it's a stomp, that's very
solution.
memorable. And I feel like they have all year to make these heroes, so why not?
Yeah, RTC played Techies. He had no idea what the fuck he was doing.
Yeah, he was horrific. I remember just making fun of him constantly.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, very, very bad All-Star match, but yeah, nothing interesting.
They're going to do
it,
better
really.
next year. I think now that they've tried a couple of different things, I think it's probably going to click what works. And I honestly think Valve's approach with trying different things each year is completely fine. It's supposed to be fun. You try something, you find out if it's fun or not. I think the idea they had last game was conceptually really fun, but stuff was just broken. And
I mean, I'm just going to say it again. They had a 10v10, V10, or whatever it was, or 10v10 one year. That was 2-3 years ago. I think all you have to do is just come out with one of these heroes and play whatever mode you want. It doesn't matter if it's shit. It's enjoyable to watch because people want to see a new hero. That's it. It's super simple. But yeah, that's just my thoughts. Anyway, TI10 will be in Sweden, Stockholm to be exact. Your thoughts on that?
That will be my first TI since TI1 without jet lag.
God, I hope you don't get invited. That'll be so great.
Yeah. I would go in, like, this is, I will not miss a TI. And I can guarantee you that I will go in any capacity to this. Whether I'm playing, if they don't want me casting or analyzing, I would coach. If nobody wants me to coach, I would go to clean the floors.
I was just going to ask, if they only had the janitor position open, would you actually do that, Cinder?
I mean, it's just... like, it being in Sweden just makes it so much easier for me, right? Like,
how long of a flight is that for you?
To Stockholm, I think I have a direct flight 1 hour.
Damn, that's nice.
And the thing that I'm actually most excited about this TI is this will be the first time I get to attend it with friends in real life. Because I've been to 9 TIs, but I've never been able to share it with them.
Right.
And they will go. There are multiple of my friends that are super excited that can't wait to go. And that is going to be fucking cool. That's like awesome. The biggest plus for me. Because like the jet lag is selfish and a bit greedy, right? But the other thing is just fucking wholesome for me. Like I really look forward to that. So that's going to be cool. They always talk about how they like watch the games and how they think it's cool that I'm part of TI. And when I come home, we like talk about it. And now they get to be there. So that's really fucking great. Yeah. And that's the other thing about it, right? Like it being there, it just also guarantees that, like I said, no matter what, I will attend. Because for me, let's say I didn't get invited in any capacity to TI in Shanghai. If I wasn't casting, wasn't analyzing, wasn't playing, wasn't coaching anything, I might not go on my own accord because like it's a really long trip, it's expensive.
You can't break your streak though. Come on.
That's I know, but I haven't been put in the situation where I would need to like make that choice, right?
Yeah.
But just again, hypothetically, if it were to happen, this would not be the year. So I will keep the streak next year for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of cool. I don't know how many people are left. I think it's me, Kuro, Puppy, and DDC. Those are the only 4 I can think of that have attended every TI. And Kuro and Puppy are the only 2 to play at all of them. But DDC, this was the first year he didn't play, but he was paneling for China. And I have gone to all of them. So I think it's only the 4 of us. I can't think of anyone else that's been to all, because Universe's streak broke this year. Has Dendy been to all of them? Or was there one that he didn't attend?
Was he in Vancouver? Was Navi there?
I think so. I think Dendy might have been to all as well. He played at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? Or at least 5 of those. If he has missed, he's missed 1 year. And yeah, there's casters too. That's true. That Chad is pointing that out. There are casters that have been to every TI. Toby has been to all TIs.
Yep.
Vilat has been to all TIs, I think. Has any caster been to all TIs? No, because it was Toby and Slash doing English on TI1, and it was Vilat doing TI1. They're
I
the
was
only
there in
casters that could
spirit,
even make.
syndereN.
Yeah.
I was watching Anti-Mage go against Spectre every single game. It was great. And I remember Tinker TPing back to base constantly, and the directed camera that they had just touted as being amazing just followed him every time. Very enjoyable. Anyway, all right. So as you guys we did TI9 predictions, and the winner, or I should say the loser, would have to do something that they didn't want to do. Mine is eat a tomato, which I find revolting. And what was yours again?
I think I needed to eat I think
was it cabbage
did we end
or
up
something?
on boiled broccoli or no? We ended up on Brussels sprouts, right? Boiled Brussels sprouts.
Okay.
So we needed to eat something we dislike.
So
it's moment of truth time.
I'm not feeling too good about this, not going to lie. All right, so we're going to go through the pages, as it were.
And we'll say which ones we got right. Yeah?
Yes, that's it. Cool. And we'll just count them each
those.
as 1 point. So hero predictions, then team, then player, then tournament. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So do you want me to just do the whole thing at first and then you
do hero prediction page first and then I do my page.
Okay, so I got 1 correct on the heroes. It was the hero with the highest last hit average, which was Naga.
Yep. And I picked the same one. So I also have that one. And then I got hero with most kills in a game. I chose Storm Spirit. So that's 2-1. That was my page 1.
Wait, which one was it? Most what? Kills?
Most kills in a game. Storm. Sumail had a 27 kill game.
I hate you,
think it was.
Sumail. What was mine?
Okay. Teams.
I put TA. Oh, I'm so dumb. All right,
Tia
teams.
had most last hits. That was actually really crazy. I would never guess that.
Team predictions. I got 1. Team that picks the most different heroes. I got Team Liquid. And you?
Oh, wow. I got team with the fewest deaths in a game. I had Secret. They had a 1 death game. They won, I think, 18 or 19-1. And then I had team with most assists in a game. I had EG.
Oh, my God.
So that's also 2-1. So 4-2. There's still 2 categories left.
No, I remember I copied you on most of these. Player predictions. I got 1 correct.
Which one?
Player with most kills in the game. I got Sumail. I'm guessing you did the same.
I got 0 on this page.
Oh, yes.
Nothing right.
Yes.
I had maybe to have most kills in a game.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so I'm 1 behind, 4-3.
Yeah, 4-3.
Right, before we go to the last page, what happens if we tie?
We don't.
What does that mean?
I can spoil you that because you told me beforehand how many right ones you have. I can tell you there's no tie. So we don't need to worry about that.
So the tournament predictions, I did okay. Instead of 1 correct, I got 6 correct. I got the total number of heroes picked, the shortest game, most kills by a hero, most deaths by a hero, most assists by a hero, and highest GPM in a game. So 6.
I got 7.
Fuck!
Right. I've got total number of games played, which was 49, so just at the end of the range. Total number of heroes picked, most combined total kills in a game, longest game of the tournament, shortest game of the tournament, most assists by a hero in a game, and highest GPM by a hero in a game. So I got 7 out of 10 on this page. I think this is my best page ever in predictions, by the way.
That's great to hear. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah,
very happy
I'm
for
really
you.
happy for me too. Now I don't have to eat fucking Brussels sprouts, and I get to see you eat a tomato, which I still cannot believe how that is so disgusting to you.
Dude, I was eating a burger
every
tonight.
second of this.
Eating a burger tonight, and it didn't say that it came with tomato, so I didn't say hold the tomato. It came with a fucking tomato on it, and I gagged just looking at it. It was disgusting.
This will be good content. I'm
this
ready.
will be, so I guess I'll have to go get do you just go to the store and buy tomatoes? Is that what you do? I'm going to go to the store, leave my house, get a tomato for next week. And how much of it am I supposed to eat?
You said a tomato, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. Are you like literally going to kill yourself if you eat a whole one? Like, you're gonna pass
I've
out.
never taken a tomato and just bit into it. I have no idea what's going to happen. I've only seen it sliced.
You know what would be really funny is if you do it and then you're like, this is actually okay.
Ooh, it tastes like ketchup. Delicious.
That would be so fucking fun.
I mean, I hope that happens. That would be terrific. I'd be a much healthier person, you know?
Yeah, just a regular tomato. If you want to, okay, so I can give you some insight on tomatoes actually.
Okay.
Depending on if you want it to be as little painful as possible, my guess is, so can you explain what about tomato you dislike? Because then I can try to tell you what type of tomato.
The taste.
Okay.
That's
So
it.
it has nothing to do with texture. It's just strictly the taste.
I guess maybe a little bit about texture because it does. I know it is technically a fruit, but I look at it as a vegetable because it doesn't. It's not sweet. It doesn't taste like what I would
Right.
consider a fruit to be. So, sure, it's a little too juicy for my taste for a vegetable, but mostly the taste is just revolting.
So cherry
Uncooked.
tomatoes are smaller. Cherry tomatoes are smaller but more intense in taste. They're like sweeter, but they taste more like tomato.
Okay.
And the big tomatoes, the ones that you see in burgers, are the more they taste less, but they're bigger. So do you want the small, intense amount, or do you want the big, weaker amount where you need to take more
Am
bites?
I supposed to eat an entire fucking tomato if
You
it's a
are
big
eating
tomato?
a whole tomato. That was the bet. You would eat a
Did I
tomato.
say that?
That's what
I would
you
eat a
said.
whole tomato?
You said you would eat a tomato.
How
I'm pretty
big are
sure
the
that was
cherry
wording.
tomatoes? They're like,
Cherry tomatoes are like...
how many cherry tomatoes do I need to eat?
If you take your index finger and you make like a circle...
That's how big your penis is? Yeah.
Exactly. No, if you take your index finger and you make like a circle with your thumb, that's about how big they are. Not on the edge of the fingers, but you have like your index finger to point in toward the first like link, whatever you call that, of your thumb.
How many
That's
of those
about
am I
the size
supposed to
they are.
eat if it's that one?
So like this.
Okay.
I mean, I think chat can decide.
No, chat cannot decide.
I think that's a great suggestion. That's a great suggestion.
All right. Well, you tell me by the end of this episode.
I know you despise tomatoes, okay? So I'll be a benevolent god and say you can either eat one big tomato that is
the whole
not very
thing?
intense, one big, or you can eat two small cherry tomatoes.
I'll definitely do the two
One or the
small
other.
cherry tomatoes then, easily.
They're more intense in taste, and
I don't-
what I kind of hope is that it turns out that you kind of like those and you just dislike the shitty burger tomatoes. They are so much better. Like cherry tomatoes as a snack is incredible. They're so much better than the other tomatoes.
Okay. I will try the cherry tomatoes, I guess.
Cool.
Ugh. Ugh. Wait, does it come with like a stem or anything?
Generally, when you buy cherry tomatoes, you buy them attached to the branch or whatever you want to call that. They're like, you like pluck tomatoes off of a branch, right?
Oh, okay.
Is that called a stem? It's like a stem that branches out, right?
Yeah, it's a stem.
But you just pluck them off. You don't eat the stem. I know you have very little experience with this, but you just eat the tomato.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much.
Dude,
Okay.
I would have loved to see you eat the stem. Just
Well,
not
some
tell your
people-
name. Just like,
Some people eat the skin of a kiwi, and that is revolting to me. I love
that
kiwis.
is true. I have never tried that.
Yeah, and banana. Some people even eat banana skins. The fuck is that about?
Yeah,
That's weird.
That's pretty funny.
If you guys do either of those things, tweet at us, and then we will make fun of you on the air. Okay, so let's
Tweet
do
a video
some.
of you eating a tomato as well.
I'm sure that'll be turned into something. Roster shuffle predictions. We don't have to go too in-depth on this because I feel like by next week we're gonna have a lot more information. There's some floating around right now.
I agree with that.
But is there anything that you want to predict or that you think should happen? Maybe is a better way to put it.
Okay. I think the teams, you know what? I'm just going to go through all of the teams and I'm going to say if they make changes or not. Not how many I think or how big they are, but I'll say who I think sticks. So OG stay together. Ana maybe takes a break again. Historically, he does that. We'll see. NIP and Chaos, I think, will either split entirely or make multiple changes. Alliance will stay together. Navi will stay together or maybe make one change. I think Fnatic will split or make big changes. I think Keen will make changes. I think VP will split really hard. Maybe 2 players only will stay. The rest will be changed. I think TNC will stay together. Maybe one change. I think Newbie will make 2 or 3 changes. I think Mineski will make 1 or 2 changes. I think RNG will change 2. Infamous will stay together. I think EG will make at least one change, maybe two, maybe even three, actually. That one's hard. I think EG could be making big changes. Yeah, I'm going to say three. Vici Gaming will make maybe one change, maybe zero. I think Secret, like we talked about, we gave them a bit more time on this. I think maybe one change. LGD, I don't think will change. They've had another great year. Liquid might make one change, perhaps, but apart from that, I think they're really stable, and they should be happy with their result. So yeah, that's it.
Okay,
that's my guess. That's a lot of changes, though.
Yeah. So
it's probably going to be bigger shuffle than last year, actually.
Yes, I think so too. I'm going to go over just a couple teams what I think they should do, and you can agree or disagree.
Right.
So I believe, first of all, I think Alliance already announced that they're staying together as five, which is great.
Right.
That's very nice to see. I think that Virtus Pro, if I could pick two players on their team that are irreplaceable, in my opinion, it's Solo, because captains are just so hard to find, and Ramses.
Right.
So I feel like they should be swapping out 2 to 3 players on that roster.
I think
minimum.
Solo announced that this would be his last TI.
This last one was?
Yes.
Oh.
I could be wrong on that, but I feel like I heard it would be his last TI. Maybe it was a rumor that's unconfirmed, but that's why I think he might quit or maybe play a bit majors, and that's it. I'm not sure about this at all.
Okay.
But I think he's absolutely been a huge part of their success. I agree with that.
We talked about Team Secret already. I feel like they should make 0 changes and just do another year in that roster.
I think that would also be a good move.
And then the biggest question mark is EG. I know that this is kind of a thing on Reddit, but I've been saying this for a while. I don't think that Arteezy and Sumail work well together. They're just...
As playstyles.
Yes. They're both very individually skilled, but I feel like on a team, they just don't work.
Right.
Like we can blame it on picks and whatnot, but I feel like that needs to just be broken up somehow. And I feel like Sumail is probably the more valuable of the two in terms of just... He's won a TI. He's very young
who's
player.
More valuable for the org?
That's a really good question.
They are both superstars. So
maybe Arteezy from just the brand perspective.
I think Arteezy's name is probably still bigger, but
yes,
yeah.
But either way, I think that needs to be broken up for sure.
Do you think they should change anything else?
Yeah,
outside of that.
S4 kind of underperformed, I feel like, at TI. I don't know if it was just it's hard to really tell if a player is playing poorly because you thought he played well?
I think he stepped up, actually. I think he played a lot better at TI than the last tournaments. Yeah, I think S4 played pretty well for the most part. He had like 1 or 2 hard games, but I honestly think largely was the draft that made his game difficult. I think individually he played well. He was probably between the last 2 tournaments and this one, he might be like one of the absolutely most improved players into TI.
Really?
From the rest of his season. I think he played very well.
Wow.
Overall, yes. I think so.
Okay.
I do not think it's easy to pin it on him. Like he's also kind of been the outlier in this season. S4 has definitely had hard times, so it's easy to pin the blame on him if he has a bad game. It's like it's almost recency bias. You're like, yeah, man, and S4 is always shit, and then when he plays well, you don't think about it too much. But just like from the outside watching those games, I actually think he played really, really well for the most part. So I
somebody just brought this up in chat, which I think would be hilarious and very cool if Yawar replaces Arteezy. You have 2 brothers on the same team,
play together?
And I actually think that their play styles work better together as well.
That could be either good or really bad.
Yeah,
it's one of those things that's super hard. I think the dynamic that Kyle and Z-Freak had was really good because I think they as people, in terms of like their interpersonal dynamic, make a lot of sense because Kyle is like very vocal, a very strong like leadership person that has a lot of confidence in himself, and Z-Freak is way more of a chill guy that can sit back, let Kyle run the show, and just do his best. But if Yawar and Sumail have like similar personalities, similar egos or whatnot, that could not be good. But I don't know them well enough. That's the thing. I know Kyle and Z-Freak better, I feel like, than the other two, and their dynamic.
I don't know how Sumail has in the last couple of years how he's evolved as a person, but I can tell you Yawar is definitely the chill kind of carry. In fact, maybe too chill, but that's something he's apparently improved on greatly. So I feel like personality-wise and like communication-wise, they'd be very good fits. Playstyle-wise as well. And the fact that they're brothers makes it just even more interesting from a PR perspective.
I mean, that's the thing about it. That can be a good and a bad thing. Because family, like in some cases, I think playing together with family can be good, and I think in other cases it can be bad, right? Because it's like there's the out of game element that can work super well, or be disruptive. Because let's say, like what you could easily imagine is a team like that goes through hard times. They have a bad LAN, they have bad scrims or whatever. As the captain of that team, how do you have how does the dynamic work when you have two brothers that will probably largely agree with each other and align their views and have they will talk a lot outside of the games about what they think about their teammates, blah blah blah. How do you it's just a different power dynamic, right? When you have two brothers that are not captains, either of them in the team, I could see it causing problems, right?
No, I know what you mean.
It's hard to say.
It's just like working with friends. It
can also be a great thing, you know?
It's like creating a business with a friend or a family member.
Yes.
It can,
yeah, absolutely.
It can be great or terrible. It's usually one of the two, not very often in between. Okay, well, I'm sure next episode we're going to be talking a lot about this stuff since this is going to be the biggest news in the next month or so. So let's move on. Oh, shit, I forgot to take a picture of this. The Trove Carafe, syndereN.
Yes.
You're going to have to remind me what sets were in there. So this was
Let me find it here.
So Trove Carafe comes out every year, has signatures that you can buy for $1. And I was saying this on my video, the chest opening video, which if people haven't seen that and you've watched my videos before, this is the one that you want to watch because I actually got lucky for once. But typically...
Do you want to say what you got?
Correct. I will. No. I mean, yeah, it doesn't matter. I got everything except for the Ultra, the rarest one. In only 7
how many
chests.
did you open?
Just 7.
Oh, wow. That's really good.
Yeah, it was very lucky. Somebody did the math. It's like
lucky.
0.0001% or something.
I got really lucky too, but not that lucky. I opened 7 as well, and I got a rare and a very rare.
Nice.
That's also super lucky, but unfortunately not the very rare I wanted.
Yeah, the
but
Monkey King. That's really... So here's the thing, though.
No,
correct me if I'm
among
wrong,
the very
syndereN.
rares, I wanted the maiden one, but I got the Tusk one.
Oh.
So that's what I meant.
got both, bro. So the Trove Carafes every single year have never changed abilities before, right? Am I wrong?
You're right. I think you're right.
Like I'm into cosmetics quite a bit. I don't remember them ever changing skills. So this is the first one, I believe, and it was really good. Can you name the heroes real quick that are in the chest?
Bounty Hunter has a claw.
All right, hold on. Let's go one by one. One by one, my friend. So Bounty Hunter Claw, that changes Janata, which is very pronounced, and his claw is an iron talon, essentially. A moving, animating iron talon, essentially.
Yes.
That item is super legit.
Crystal Maiden, staff, gives her an aura animation when she levels it up. And is it also when heroes respawn?
I'm not sure about the respawn, but it works on every hero in the game.
Yeah,
on her team,
every allied hero.
It sounds strange, but it does look pretty cool. It's a cool one. The staff is whatever.
Nature's Prophet gets a cloak.
That's the one that lagged the TI games, right?
Yeah. It changes his Wrath of Nature, I think.
Yeah, it just adds like a little shard model to the ult, which it's fine.
Arc Warden got Wraith Binder. I think it's a shoulder that makes his wraiths into familiars instead, or into bats, basically.
Yeah, and who was that was playing that? Was it Nisha?
Miracle.
They're just spamming those everywhere. Yeah, that one's pretty cool.
TA got a shoulder piece. I actually don't know what this changes.
Refraction.
Traps, I guess. Refraction? Okay.
Yeah, it adds like this ribbon around the refraction, which I think looks very cool. It's a little bit more subtle than a lot of the Immortals, but I liked it quite a bit still, which I think Weehaw used.
Chaos Knight got a broken blade.
Yep.
Changes his Chaos Strike, I think.
That's his passive, right?
His passive, yeah.
Yeah.
It changes the crit.
People were making fun of the icon for that, so I think they're probably going to change it. But
no, they changed it really fast.
Did they change it already?
The first one was like a placeholder. They put a placeholder in by mistake. I think it looked stupid.
So that one's okay. It's maybe a little
Tusk
underwhelming.
Got a weapon.
Offhand weapon.
Which, I think it changes his ult.
Yeah, it changes his ult. Sure. So, correct. This is a stupid question, but I just never really paid attention. When you walrus punch somebody just normally, they do a somersault, right? Or is it just they go up in the air? I think they do a somersault normally.
Damn,
Because
I'm actually not sure if that's cosmetic based or not.
Because when they,
don't know.
like this cosmetic, they definitely somersault, which at first I was paying close attention to it, so I wasn't sure if it changed it, but I think it's the same. So people are saying yes. But the thing that it changes is the text, which is very pronounced, and it says, wait, what does it say? Is it fish punch? Or something like that? I don't remember.
Yeah.
But it's a different color as well, I think, which is nice.
Right.
So that's cool. And then the Monkey King one, I think, is the last one, right?
No, Techie's got an elephant.
Oh, how could I forget?
They actually fucking did it.
Did you see the original elephant, by the way? Wasn't even anything close to this one.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty funny.
This is what makes the chest amazing, other than the Monkey King, which we'll go over in a second. But this is literal Heroes of New Earth / League of Legends types cosmetics. And no one's complaining, syndereN. Your thoughts?
They're not complaining because it's techies. The hero's already dumb, so you can give him dumb cosmetics, and it's in character. You know, it just fits. Nah. I don't mind too much, honestly. I don't mind too much.
It's interesting that you say that, because I remember having conversations, even with you, like, this cosmetic's a little too far, I think, just in theory. Once it comes out, though, like, all right, it's a fucking pink elephant. That's great. I love it.
But it's fucking techies, so I can't care.
You can't separate that. I see.
I just can't care about this hero. They could turn him into, I don't know, a circus wheel or whatever, and I'll just be like, cool, you know, it's fucking techies. Like, who gives a shit?
So yeah, the set itself is really cool, though. It's really cool. I like it a lot.
Honestly, a bit more serious answer, though. I think, as weird as this may sound, I actually think this is one of the ones that are crazy that fits the character the most. And the reason is Techies as a hero, like the whole concept of it, the way he talks, the way he moves, the way he plays the game, it is a clowny character. Like, you just can't deny that. Techies is just like a clown. So I feel like you can do crazier shit and it still feels in character. It's very similar to Ogre Magi, where some people point a lot of criticism toward it when he got what was it? The ring? Is it called a bathing ring?
The thing on his back.
No, the one he has around his waist, like when you go out in the water.
Oh, the tube. The water. Yeah, I can't remember what that's called.
What's that called again?
I can't remember.
I feel like I called it bathing ring and people laughed at me, so that was the wrong word.
It's like some sort of a tube.
Floaty. That's what.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, he has a floaty. And again, it's because Ogre is like, it's a clowny character. So I feel like, again, it fits the personality of the character more. And I think with a hero like Techies, you can get more creative. Like for perspective, right? Let's imagine you took, what would be a good example here? Let's say you took Beastmaster and you had him summon like completely different creatures. Like Call of the Wild Boar, instead it summons
a miniature hippo.
Turtles. Like, that would feel pretty fucking weird, right? Like, that doesn't really make sense if he summoned turtles, would it?
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe it's a bad example.
Well, what do you think of the custom creeps that are crocodiles and chameleons?
Or the opposite way, if Disruptor, instead of riding on an animal, rode on a cart. Because that's the flip side of techies, right? They used to ride a cart and now they ride an animal. If you did it the other way around with heroes, I feel like it would feel weird.
You know, if you want to pay $1,250, you can buy Disruptor riding a lawnmower. The model's really already made.
Funny, but doesn't. Yeah. The Distractor.
I mean, I personally have no issues with any of the stuff that you're saying.
I know you're like on the extreme side that just doesn't care about anything.
Yes.
But I would definitely agree with your statement that I've become softer on this. I used to.
Everyone has
have like stronger points.
Well, you remember Ursa? Just remember Ursa. Just remember.
Yeah.
Everyone's outrage. Now look at the game.
Yeah.
Everyone's evolved.
But I think that's a really key point, though, is that they've eased it in, and I think that's where the Ursa thing was tricky, because it was a really big jump out of nowhere. Like, what Valve have basically done the last 4 years is they've slowly made things a little crazier and a little crazier.
Here's the thing,
and then I think it's easier for people to accept it.
Let's say when the Alpine Ursa came out, let's say they never took it out of the game. What do you think would have happened? Like, community-wise? Do you think people would just get sick of complaining? Would it actually have made it any difference, like in terms of people playing the game? I don't think so. So they could have.
I don't know.
What I'm trying to say is Valve could have, in theory, accelerated the game. Short term, maybe people get a little mad, but overall, it's not like you're losing any business. And if anything, you're gaining business with more cosmetic purchases. And then by this point, we're coming out with gender benders more often than we are now.
I think maybe, but at the same time, a big part of the hardcore Dota fan base, one of the things they really disliked about League and Han was how crazy they went with the designs. If you would have made that leap like that, I don't know if people would have bought into the cosmetics as much. So in the end, it might have been a worse overall financial result than slowly transforming it.
So just to be clear, some of it I'm memeing about, obviously. Like you say I'm on the extreme, but I'm not really. Like the stuff that Han did and League does, I think is like fucking their Axe equivalent plays basketball, for God's sake. That's stupid. I wouldn't be okay with that. So I'm not technically on the extreme, syndereN. Okay? Just want to throw that out there.
Gotcha. Right.
But things are getting crazier, and I love it. Okay.
Want to talk about Monkey King quickly?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. So Monkey
There's
King,
Golden Tusk and Golden Maiden. Those are the very rares. But yeah.
So Monkey King changes his ult, and it looks fucking crazy. Really cool.
His ult is super good.
Does it mess with FPS is the question, though.
From what I've seen, no. I think this Monkey Ultra Rare is probably one of my favorite sets in the whole game.
Yeah,
I think it's
really
extremely good.
But you don't have it.
No, I don't have it.
People gift me and syndereN Monkey King set.
For a couple of reasons. So something that Valve have been doing a lot lately is when they make these very rares and whatnot, it's just other items that are remodeled in gold. But Monkey King is probably the hero in Dota that it makes most sense to have a gold outfit on. It just fits the lore
Alchemist
of it super well. Alchemist as well, absolutely. Those two heroes. And it's just like the way Sun Wukong is depicted, right? Having him have gold is super cool. And then on top of it, it's not another set that has just been remodeled. It's a unique golden set, and the ulti looks fucking incredible. Mm-hmm. So I think they really, like, this item should, like, I don't know if it should or whatever, but when people were talking about the immortal chests and they were like, I don't think this immortal chest is as good as the others. I think whatever chest people thought was the worst, if it had Monkey King in it, they would not have complained. Like, this set is...
Maybe they had it in there.
It's probably the best set they made this year. It's the best set Valve made this year.
Actually, you could... I just thought of something, syndereN. What if these were all made originally for the Battle Pass, but then Valve saw that, we're going way over our price pool already. Let's just put these in the Trove Carafe instead. These are literal immortal items. We said they've never done the skill-changing stuff before for Trove Carafe.
It's true.
So,
maybe, yeah.
Very interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because this did not contribute to the prize pool, right? Trove Carafe does not contribute.
Right. I believe so.
I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember ever reading that, so I don't think it does. But anyway.
It did. Okay, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay. Everyone's saying they did. All right.
Okay.
As if that needed more.
Oh, it's two different conversations. Okay, either way.
All right, so Arcana Winner. Ogre won by a sizable margin. Are you happy about that?
Yes. That was the guy I wanted to win. So that's
good.
Great.
Now, I have a very interesting prediction on what the Arcana will be. Why don't you give me yours, what you would want it to be?
So like we talked about before, I think Ogre is one of the heroes who can go a bit crazier.
Yes.
So I think they're going to turn all of Ogre into he's going to roll around like a Wheel of Fortune.
That's the hero. It's just Wheel of Fortune.
Sounds awful. I don't know. Actually, I haven't thought about it that much, what they could do with him.
Do you think they could add a third head?
Ogres don't have 3 heads, do they? They always have 2.
They can make up their own lore. Come on.
Well, if it has 3 heads, it's a chimera.
Is that actually what a chimera is?
Or a hydra. Chimera and hydras have 3 heads. Hydras have 3 of the same head.
Yeah, but don't they have to...
Chimeras have 3 different heads, right? It's 3 different animals, I think.
But don't they have to be a specific type of animal? Like, can't an ogre just have a third head?
Okay, there's somebody in chat saying there are 3-head ogres. We're going to trust that guy.
All right, so you have nothing in mind. Do you want to know my idea?
Yeah, I haven't thought about it, so I have no clue.
What about, I know I've said this so many times before, but this one will be especially hilarious. The first gender bender, syndereN, a female, double female in this case, ogre magi. And it's not one of those that's really pandering to the crowd. It's not going to be a sexy looking creature. It's going to be hideous with saggy boobs or whatever you want to put on her. That
So
sounds
like
amazing.
Orc females in WoW.
Yes. Yeah. That's
You're
actually
just going to say yes. You have no idea.
No, orc females in WoW. Why not? What do you think, buddy?
What if one head was female and the other was male?
And they're just bickering, their wife and husband.
Yeah.
I think that hits a little too close to home for a lot of people that are playing
Alabama
the game, you know?
set for ogre.
Brother and sister. Oh, that's good. The Alabama, and they all have accents like this. Oh, just talk like this all day. Oh, that's so good. Holy shit, that's $1 million idea.
Actually, I mean, it's no clue, right? I feel like if they do a gender change on a hero, I don't think they will do it for the Arcana. I think it will be the next experiment similar to Kid Invoker. I feel like they would rather do that than make that an Arcana. But yeah, I'm just curious what they can come up with. I think you can be really creative with Ogre, with spell animations, with voice lines, with just the general look of the hero. There's a lot of stuff you can do. So
Yep, agreed.
I'm pretty sure this, like, I will say I'm very hopeful that this will be like one of my favorite Arcanas in the game. I think a couple of the new ones they've made have been really good. I thought the Shaker one was dope. The one from this TI is really nice. Good. It's been a little bit. I think I've heard some people say they don't like it so much. I think the Shaker one is super good. So if they can keep up that like level of quality in recent memory, then I think the Ogre one's going to be great.
Agreed. So. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Okay, SFM results. As you guys know, Slacks and I did a very long video reviewing these, so we have I've watched I think all of them. Third place was, I don't know the exact name, but it was Life of a Courier. Second place was Wrath of Roshan, and first was the Vengeful Spirit one. So, have you seen these, syndereN?
I think I saw the third place one and the first place one, and maybe a little bit of the second place because I think I had to walk away.
You haven't seen the second place one? Are you serious? You haven't seen Wrath of Roshan?
I think I only saw a bit of it in the arena. I'm not 100%.
Okay, so I'll be talking for this segment, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you've watched this way more than I have regardless.
The first place, so the Vengeful Spirit one, it's a good video. Like, it is. I could see it being third place. I put it fourth, personally, but I could see it being flip-flop.
Right.
Life of the Courier as third place. I'm, no offense to the creators, there's no business this video being top 3 at all. Now, Cinder, do you know, is it the community voting or is this Valve? I actually don't know. My gut says it's the community voting because we did vote for it, right? So community, shame on you. Second place, Wrath of Roshan, might be the best SFM I have ever seen. And it got second place? Are you fucking kidding me? That's a disgrace. That's a fucking disgrace. I can't understand how that's second. That's like the easiest shoe-in on first place ever. And then some snubs. The retro commercial that I talked about, I think on one of our episodes, is really good. And then the biggest snub was the Parallel Universe, which I think is also a shoe-in for second place as well. That wasn't even top 3. So pretty freaking disappointed in the community if that actually is the case.
What are your conditions for what should win or get top 3? What do you put emphasis on? Is it the technique and how well executed the animation is? Or
everything.
Is it the story?
Everything.
Okay. So, let me give you an example. Let's say there is one that is flawlessly designed, like extremely well made in SFM. Like they use the technology to the absolute maximum, but the story is pretty flat.
It's not. Yeah, this is the perfect example is last year, I believe, Max's, who won every year, Max of S2D. Yeah. He had a really, like, he has the best SFMs pretty much, but the thing had not a very entertaining story, so I didn't like it. So it needs to have a little bit of everything. It needs to be unique. It has to have a good story. It has to have flawless SFM or whatever, even if it's not an SFM, especially if it's using like, God, why am I missing the term? When you're doing like an in real life type thing, that those are actually more difficult. So the barrier to get past the cringe threshold and make it actually quality is much more difficult. So that comes into my mind as well.
Okay.
So yeah, a lot of
So-
it's just a lot of factors.
If you could have one with 75% animation skill and 25% story skill, or vice versa, what do you think is the better one?
Story.
Story has more weight.
Yes, that's why the Wrath
How
of
good-
Roshan
how-
is like the best
That
I've
had
seen.
an incredible story.
I thought the story was very. It's like it's
Okay.
it's an interpretation of one of Slax's theories on how Roshan became to be, and
Right.
it was the best graphics I've ever seen. It was literally I think it was done in Unreal Engine, I want to say.
Okay.
Like, you need to watch this thing, dude. It's incredible. Fucking incredible. And I got second place. Ugh, I don't understand. I don't know what that's all about, but that's whatever at this point. But congratulations to the top 3. I don't know if they even release the top 10. Usually it's the top 10 that gets prize pool, and it's just in descending order.
I think they
how much?
showed. I am not sure because I saw it in the arena, but that was the Chinese production. I
They
don't know what the
showed
English
top
one
3
did.
only. Yeah, that from
Okay.
the video. So,
Right.
anywho. All right. And last thing we'll talk about for Dota is the new heroes were announced. And oh my God. Snapfire and Void Spirit. So it said both of them will be coming in the Outlanders update in fall, as well as Underlords, by the way.
Did it?
Yes, it did.
Didn't it say Snapfire coming this fall, and then Void
Yeah.
Spirit was in the Outlanders update?
Yeah, and then in the final screen, it shows an icon of both heroes.
Okay. Well, then maybe they.
Okay, I
'Cause
thought
I
you had
thought on
inside
day one-
information.
I thought the first day that they showed them, they showed Snapfire, and then it says coming this fall, and then it showed
Yeah.
Void Spirit, and it also said coming this fall, but not both of them on the same screen. And fall is long, and Valve's fall is like 6 months. So
So
could be-
so again, I was watching everything on a delay because I didn't want to get spoiled. Were they both on the same day for sure announced? Or were they one day apart? I thought they were one day apart, but I could be wrong.
yeah, I think they're 1 day apart.
Okay, so yeah, they showed Snapfire first. It just said fall. Then the second one said the Outlanders update, and then at the end it shows both icons for the heroes, the Snapfire and
Okay.
Void Spirit. So I'm 99%
Maybe
sure.
they come the same update. Sure.
Okay,
All right.
so let's talk about Void Spirit since it's less known, I guess. So it was obviously a spirit brother. So it's the 4th spirit now. What did you think of the video? It was more of a simple video, which is why we're talking about it first. Did you get any inkling of what kind of hero it could be?
Well, the first reveal they had of it, they failed. The VR was incorrect. The
What?
way that it was shown, the way it was shown on stage the first time, it failed because the VR didn't load in the correct place on stage. But then they
really?
redid it. Yeah, they redid it, and then when they showed it the second time on stream, it was the correct and fixed version.
Really?
Where you got to see him fully step out of the portal. Yeah, the original. Oh yeah, AR. Sorry, not VR. The original AR was it was just placed incorrectly. So the camera was like filming a place on the stage, and Void Spirit was off the camera. He was like you could see his hair like coming in or whatever.
Are you
Yeah, the first time it was.
okay?
They
So
were like, man, that sucks.
again,
But,
I
yeah.
watched everything on delay, like hours later, just so I wouldn't get spoiled for some of this stuff. So I didn't get to see that original video. So what is the reaction? People were cheering. Is that the original cheering that they just placed in front of or they actually just redo the whole thing?
I don't know, and I don't remember exactly what it was. But
Okay.
either way, like let's talk about the one where it's correct, right? Where they show it
Yeah.
the way they wanted to, because that's the one you've seen. So he walks out of a portal, clearly. So we have to assume he has some sort of teleportation ability. Either he creates like a gateway that other people can travel through. I could imagine that being a spell that you can drop a gate on the ground and then people can kind of blink through that gate.
Yeah.
Apart from that, he has his weapon is was it a two-handed like spear with glaives on both ends or something?
It was like a baton or something.
I don't know the word for this kind of weapon, but it was a two-hander with sharp edges in both ends, right?
Double-ended spear. Sure.
Yeah. Maybe he has an ability that plays on that. I don't know exactly what he would use that for with like the whole portal thing.
Yeah. So that video was much less clear what the hero did. but the things that I got from it, and a couple other people mentioned some things that I found interesting. Like the first sequence is everyone. It looks like everybody's chronosphered or something that might not have anything to do with it. Then obviously the portal, like you talked about, I'm just assuming it's going to be like Portal, the game. But then the other thing that somebody mentioned, what I found very interesting, was he summons his weapon. Why would he summon it?
That's true. That's true.
So they're thinking that he might be the first hero that's essentially the power treads of heroes, where he can change from agility, intelligence, and strength. And maybe your skills change as a result. I don't know. But it sounds like an interesting concept.
Kind of like the final boss in Dark Souls 3 that can
I wouldn't
transform
know.
and take different weapons. Now, I'm sure a lot of people will realize what I mean.
But he obviously will have
that's
some
one
sort of
option.
mobility spell.
The other option is that summoning his weapon is his ult. And throughout the game, he plays with his fists similar to Darkseer, and he's a melee hero. Or that he has like projectiles that he just shoots out of his hands, and then when he activates his ult, he becomes a melee hero. And that's where he needs the portal, so he can go from being at range to coming up close, and then activate his ult, and then he goes crazy in melee with his blade thingy. That would actually be a kind of cool design. Do we have any ranged hero that turns melee as an ult, or like as a transformation?
Not as an ult, but Troll.
Dragon Knight's the other way around. He goes from melee to ranged, and Troll has two forms the whole game. He can play melee or ranged form. We don't have a hero that transformed from range to melee. Actually, somebody in chat is saying Lone Druid, which is technically true, but it's not for the purpose of going aggressive in combat with melee form. It's a way of getting tanky. You don't use it to deal damage.
Right. Terrorblade.
Terrorblade goes the other way, though. He goes from melee to range, not range to melee.
Okay. Yeah, that's. Yeah.
I could see that being a possibility, which would be honestly really cool design. And somebody else in chat also pointed out, which is very true. Every single of the spirit heroes has a movement ability, so the portal just fits into that. Ember Spirit has Remnant, Storm Spirit can jump, Earth Spirit can roll, Vengeful Spirit can swap if you even want to count her.
She's not one of them.
She's not technically one of the spirits. But
Spirit Breaker.
Spirit Breaker can charge. Like everything that has spirit in it has some powerful movement.
They're not included. Okay, so let's talk about Snapfire. This one is a little bit more interesting because a lot more was revealed. The SFM was amazing.
That was great. It was really great.
I don't know what you thought of it. I think the concept of the hero is so cool because it's a female character that is not pandering. Right? It's an old fucking hag.
I mean, we have others of those, right? Dota doesn't have the most sexualized female characters.
That's true, but I feel like most of the female characters, I think most of them are sexualized. But the ones that aren't are just like undead, like Death Prophet, right? Who else is there? That's
Drow Ranger?
She's sexualized. What are you talking about? Of course she is.
You think so? I don't think she's particularly sexualized.
Broodmother doesn't count.
The most sexualized female hero in the game is Lena, right?
No,
she has
Quap. Quap is sexual because she's a succubus. Sorry, yes. That one makes sense though. She's a succubus.
Yes, it's the character. And Lena is number 2, right? Because she has kind of the like. Also, her demeanor and the way she talks is a bit like that's what they're going for.
You're calling her a slut?
Those two. No, that's a very weird assumption to make out of that statement.
Okay, Spectre. Spectre's a good point. That's a good point.
Medusa is not sexualized either.
Medusa actually should be more sexualized if you think of the lore. She should be very pretty, and then when she ults, she turns hideous. Instead, she's hideous and becomes more hideous, which doesn't make any sense.
What about Legion Commander?
Very sexualized. I am very attracted to Legion Commander personally.
But that's something. That's not a generic thing. That's just you. That's a different thing, though. You're into very dominant women.
All right. Well, the difference is okay. Here, let me put it this way. All right. Maybe pandering is not the okay. I'll retract what I said because you're right. There are a few characters. What I will say is it's fresh to see a female character that is humanoid. Humanoid is still not the right term. I'm like. Not undead, not dead, not a weird creature, just a human, essentially, although this is a Keen, and it's just an old hag. I just like the concept of the hero.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, in terms of the abilities that we can see from... Go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like how to say... I think something Valve is exceptionally good at when it comes to their hero designs and development is that at some point you feel like you run out of ideas, right? Like you're going to create two heroes that are a bit similar to each other. I think they do a really good job at making unique stuff. Like this is when you look over the roster of Dota, it's something they've done in the past, right? Heroes that were too similar got reworked. Like Wraith King and Sven used to have a similar stun. One gets changed to AoE stun. The other one gets single target with a slow. Lion, Earth Spike, and Nyx Impale used to be the same spell. They get changed a bit. Like they still keep their identity, but they become
those
a
are
bit
pretty
different.
similar, and same
They're
with
pretty
Hex.
similar. I mean, it's fair, but apart from that, the heroes are very different, right?
Yeah.
There aren't. You can't like take two heroes out of Dota and be like, these heroes are almost the same. And I think that's something that other games in this genre kind of fall victim to later on, is that there's just too much overlap between what heroes do. For example, in a game like League of Legends, there are very many similarities between carry heroes. Even if they're different, there are many overlaps. I feel like Dota's heroes are very unique. Like there aren't two heroes that can be like, wow, this is almost the same as this other hero. This just really isn't. And that's what I love about this reveal of the Hag, is that she truly seems like she has nothing in common with anything else. It's super different from everything we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
So I just find that super cool. They do a very good job with.
I agree
with design.
So the SFM itself was extremely well done and entertaining.
Yeah.
And we can guess a decent amount of the abilities as a result. So let me list the ones that I thought I saw or think they might be, and you can follow up. Mm-hmm. So the one that I missed the first time I watched it, I saw it the second time, is the very beginning of the video. There's like a mechanical jaw, mouth, if you will, that closes in on like a bug or whatever it is. So I think that's very clearly one of her spells is like a trap of some kind.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then she has a couple different scenes where she is shooting a shotgun. One is like I think she's going to be a ranged hero most likely, so that's probably her normal attack. And then there's a more specialized shotgun blast of some sort. And then obviously the big thing is her ult, which I assume it's her ult, is she starts riding this creature, which I think, and somebody brought this up on the Jungle Jam that I agree with, that I think would be really cool, is you just get a whole new set of abilities when you start riding this mount, instead of it being something you need to micro, which I hope it's not. That would be terrible, I think. I think they're trying to make things a little bit easier for people, so I doubt it's a micro.
What other Dota has a transformation spell where it gets new spells? There's
Stop
one
asking
hero.
these questions. Transformation that gets new spells. Brew. That's true.
Yes, Brewmaster. The
But
old
that's
Keeper
micro,
for Light. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. True. But there isn't much of this where you transform into a new entity, basically. Most of the transformation ults just make one ability different, like Dragon Knight or Alchemist, or Lycan. You still have the same spells, they just change a bit, but you don't get new spells.
So in terms of like when you're using
Lone Druid, somebody said. Lone Druid is true. You get a new set of abilities when you get what's it called? You get Battle Cry. Didn't you used to get another spell on Lone when you turned? But now you don't anymore?
Was it a passive? I don't remember.
I feel like sometime way back he got 2 spells, but now he only gets Battle Cry.
But I think at least 2 abilities are unlocked with this. The creature itself is freaking from How to Train Your Dragon, by the way. It's like exactly the same, except it's a lizard. But I have no problem with that because it's super cuddly. But the 2 abilities, one is like a leap, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
The thing leaps at the end, and then the other one is a very concentrated fireball, which, and I guess some lore was also kind of out there. She's a Keen, and Timbersaw is her nephew, or something like that, right?
Right.
So anything else come to mind for you?
Which fits very well because she also seems maybe like she's a little bit crazy, just like Timber. So that's cool. There's a little bit more. So she has there's a scene in the clip where she
the
throws
cookies.
a cookie, right?
Yeah.
So I have this idea. The cookie, I think, is one of her primary spells, and it's one of 2 things. Either it's something that is only ally target, including herself, where you get like a buff, gives move speed or whatever, and damage, or it can also be thrown on enemies, and then it would have synergy with the trap, where you catch them in the trap and then you force feed them cookies, and then they get stunned or something from throwing up or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could see it as a potential like weapon. I don't know if there would be any way to do that. And then I think the fireball, I have this speculation that it has break. Because I think that's one of the mechanics in the game that we have very little of. We have break
Okay.
on Nether Toxin, and we have break on Nyx ulti, and we have break on Shadow Demon Eggs.
Yep.
I think those are the literal only abilities outside of Silver Edge that can break.
I think so
And it's
too.
something that's a bit missing in the game. So if they give this as a spell either in the ulti form or in the regular form that it works like a break, it also makes sense with what you saw happen with Timbersaw, right? It's like she
He
threw
just
the
dies.
fireball on him and he just melted, kind of like you melt breaking armor. Yeah.
One other thing.
So maybe
The final thing from me, at least, for this hero, I don't know if it was just because they wanted to make the SFM interesting, but the whole storyline, if you catch it, is that her cookies are being stolen. So my question is that significant in terms of the skills that the enemies can actually steal something from her? Or is that just something they threw
release? What if they re-release her with Dire Tide?
Who gives a shit about Dire Tide? Honestly,
Everybody wants Dire Tide, but they don't. They
But
think
they
they do, but they don't.
I don't even think they do anymore at this point after the last time. So yeah, it'll be really cool to see. I mean, I love new heroes. I love theory crafting. I love trying to design shitty heroes. So I'm excited to see what happens. With
We
these
forgot
bad
one
boys.
break, by the way. I just wanted to clear that up.
Yes.
Doom Eggs also breaks. So there are 4, right? Doom Eggs, Shadow Demon Eggs, Nyx Vendetta.
That doesn't really
and
count.
Nether
Nobody
Toxin.
buys that though, right? Doesn't count.
Yeah, so like the access to this mechanic in the game is very,
Yeah, it's hard.
it's very scarce. How to come by it? So
Okay,
they,
that is
like in conclusion, they just look fucking fun. They look cool. I love the designs, and I think they're going to be fun to play. My speculation is that Void Spirit will be a core, primarily. Maybe he can be a flex pick. He looks like an int type, maybe that has this physical component.
yeah. Let's predict what attribute they are. Go ahead. So int
So
for
I
him.
think I think he's int, but that there is perhaps something about the way that he uses his weapon that maybe it becomes the type of hero that finally truly uses int and agility. We don't really have a hero like that really uses both attributes well. So maybe that's like a Kaya
Introduction of Harken's Blade
Kayayasha
coming soon.
A Kayayasha hero, maybe they do the triple combined weapon.
And then
And
Snapfire.
I think Snapfire is a support, and I'm mainly basing that off the cookies. It seems more of like a supportive approach to the game, that you're buffing your teammates with that, and then you can still, like, you lay traps, right? Like you lay traps to set up your teammates for success. You throw cookies to set them up for success,
Agreed.
and then you also have a transition. So I think that Snapfire will probably be. I mean, we're starting to get a lot of int heroes then. Maybe the Void Spirit is agility, and then Snapfire is int. I think one of
Alright.
them is int and one is agility. I don't think they're
would-
both int.
Can we remember these predictions? Because I am very confident in my answer on these.
Okay.
So okay, what is your final answer?
I think she is int and he is agility. That's my
Okay.
guess.
I think Void Spirit is all 3 attributes, because if you think about it,
Okay.
Earth Spirit is strength, Storm Spirit is intelligence, Ember Spirit is agility. You already have one of each. Now you just
So
need
he
the
has an
Fourth Spirit to have all
attribute
3.
shift spell, like just
Yes.
turn primary attribute. Okay.
Yes. And then I think, and I feel very strongly about this one in particular, I think the wench, or the hag,
Oh,
is,
when?
is going to be a female, obviously ranged strength support.
Strength.
Yes.
Strength support. Okay. So like Huskar, or like Io, basically.
Yes.
Well,
except
IO used to
more
be.
fun to play, because she actually has maybe more interactive spells for non-pro players. So
I guess it does make sense for her to be strength if she's related to Timber, to an extent. If you want to go that route,
I don't
it's
know if
also
that
strength
matters
hero.
that much, but yeah, sure.
but we don't know if she's related to Sniper yet in any way. They didn't show anything of that. But
not many ranged strength heroes either.
is there? Wait, so how many Keen heroes are in the game? There's Tinker, Sniper, Timber, and
What's Bat Rider? Because he was in the video. I don't know what he
I
is.
don't think he's keen. He's not keen. He doesn't look keen.
Clockwork, Gyro,
Clock, Gyro, Alk.
Tinker. Tinker's definitely keen.
Yeah, so they're a bit all over the place with stats. I don't think.
Oh,
can
we
think
should
too
also.
much about
I did mention this, but they will both be in Underlords as well. So we're finally seeing what we thought Artifact would do, right? Where you introduce a hero, then both of them come out in the same game, or both for Dota, and it's like cross promotion essentially. So
Right.
I'm very interested to see how Valve does that, because we had a lot of theory crafting with the way they do it for Artifact. Of course, that just kind of died. So yeah, if they have cross promotion in each respective game. Okay.
Right.
So final thing we'll talk about, as this episode has gone very long, but of course it's a very special episode, syndereN.
Yeah.
We have to talk about something that's not Dota related in order to call ourselves an esports podcast. So World of Warcraft Classic Edition has been released, and I know almost nothing about it other than earlier today there were over 1 million people watching, and on Twitch at least. And the fact that to get into an actual game, some people, I've seen queues that are last days. I don't know if that's actually stayed that way, but pretty hardcore. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I can tell you a lot about this game because I've played a lot of games, and if I was put on the spot to make a top 3 best games of all time, the original World of Warcraft experience goes in my top 3, together with Warcraft 3 and Dota 2. Those are my 3, probably also my 3 most played games just in terms of raw hours that I've ever sunk into video games. So I'm personally super excited about this game. It came out about 12 hours ago. I think World of Warcraft got worse over the years. I still think the original game was probably the absolute best that they ever made. The first 2 expansions were also pretty good, Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King, but then it's been kind of downhill from there. But just the game experience of this is incredible. And if you've not played the game before, if you like RPGs in any sense, I really recommend you to try this game. Play it through once, because it's a very, like, I've never found a game like it. And I've played a lot of other MMOs, and it just never had the same feel for me. As far as the game goes with the launch, there's been... it's pretty ridiculous. So originally when Blizzard announced that the game was coming out and they were announcing servers, I think they announced 4 PvP servers for US and 2 for Europe. And since then, which I think was 2 weeks ago, Europe has increased from 2 PvP servers to 10. So either Blizzard did it as a strategic move. I don't know what the strategy is there. Or they vastly underestimated how many players they would have.
I want to read a tweet real quick from Frodan,
Right.
one of the really good casters in Hearthstone. I should have found the tweet before I said that. Go ahead, keep talking about the game. I'll find it, don't worry.
Yeah. So, but I mean, absolutely, the number of viewers last night was incredible. There's a really, really big amount of hype generated around this because it's such a nostalgic experience for loads of players around the world.
So
I think World of Warcraft. Yeah, go ahead.
Just to be clear, I played a little bit, like a week of WoW, just to try to see what people are so obsessed with, and we've talked about this before. I'm just not into RPGs. Just it is what it is.
Right.
So this is just the original game. It's not changed in any way. It just doesn't include any expansions. That's it. Is there anything I'm missing?
So the way WoW has developed, over the years is that when a new expansion comes out, all of the existing servers start playing on that expansion version. You can choose not to buy the expansion, but then you don't have access to the new content, and you lose the community with everybody else because they're playing the expansion. So, like, you could technically, in theory, you could stay in Classic forever, but you would have nobody to play with because everybody's playing.
So when somebody gets an expansion, you literally cannot play with them unless you also have the expansion.
You can play in the areas that you share, as far as I'm aware. But the majority of endgame content is, of course, going to be in the new areas that you don't have access to. So basically what this does, there's a couple of things about this that are really important. The first one is everybody obviously plays on the same version, which is the main case for retail anyway. They announced the game with what they call basically no changes. So this should be the authentic original World of Warcraft experience with how difficult it is to level up, how strong enemies are, how difficult dungeons are, how you how you travel, how you interact with other players. Something that has happened over time with this game that has changed the feel of it a lot is they have really started valuing convenience over atmosphere. So something you could imagine can be both good and bad at the same time in a game like this is making traveling super easy, because it makes it easier to get together with people, but it also makes you lose that sense of immersion of being in the world if you can just teleport everywhere. You know what I mean? It's like this whole traveling through zones to get to places and all this stuff, and having to meet up with people, having to group up with people to do quests while you're leveling up, all this kind of thing. Those are some of the key points that World of Warcraft kind of lost. toward the later portions because they wanted to make it easier and more convenient to level up for the most part until the later portions of the game. Yeah, that's some of the key things. There was something else I wanted to cover.
While you think about it, I'll read this tweet.
I got it.
Ahead.
So something they're doing is obviously one thing they kind of have to change is with the ridiculous amount of players that go in on launch, they have to start out with what they call, I think it's called sharding, where when there's a lot of people in one area, they divide it into like 2 alternate realities basically. Because else you would have like thousands of players fighting over the same quest mob in the beginning. And then as the game progresses over time, they will shard less and less because people get more spread out. But in the beginning, they have to do this.
Did you say sharding?
It's called layering, apparently.
Did you say sharding?
Shard, not shart. Sharding, as in shards, not shards.
Just making sure.
Yeah, you were hoping it was sharting, weren't you? Then you would definitely play the game. That's my kind of game.
That's my kind of game, tell you what.
Yeah. Okay, go for the tweet.
All right, so Frodan tweets, in quotes, "You think you want it, but you don't," end quote. This is a quote from Blizzard back in 2013 about whether it was a good idea to have a legacy servers, aka Classic WoW. Now the category cleared 1 million viewers before launch and still climbing. What else do game devs think that players don't want? That's a pretty cool tweet.
Yeah.
That was, when was, they said 2013, so 6 years ago?
Right. Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
I mean, it's been a thing for many years in WoW now that there's been like more and more criticism about the game direction. And again, I think if you wanted to boil it down to one thing that plays the biggest difference to the most people, I think it's the sense of, it's the atmosphere of the game. It's like the character really, it's the immersive experience of having a character and working with other people and feeling like you're part of a world where over time, part of that has just kind of been lost for the sake of convenience. And that's why people already back then wanted to come back to this, because they have these memories of this game being amazing. And there was a lot of concerns, and I think from Blizzard too. They were probably the reason why they said you think you do this but you don't, is that they were like, people are just being nostalgic, you know. They're going to remember 10 years ago when they were playing the game for the first time, and it's not going to be the same as playing it the first time. And it isn't. That's why I encourage people that have never played it before to try it, because the first time is something really special, right? But the fact is, a lot of the people that have since tried it, that played the beta and whatnot, said, like, even skeptics that thought the same thing, that they were like, it's probably just going to be nostalgic. They quickly realized, a lot of the people that I've seen play it and heard messages from were like, it's incredible how you play this game for just like 10 or 15 hours, and it feels like a totally different experience where you feel more rewarded when you do something in the game. Leveling up is more difficult. You rely more on other players. You kind of need to make connections with other players in the world to get by, as well as in retail version. Leveling up is kind of seen as a chore that you just need to get over as fast as possible. They like boost you through it. You just cruise through areas. You almost don't even get to see what they look like before you're through it. You don't have to think for yourself. Every quest is just telling you, you need to go here and do exactly this. In the old versions of WoW, you read like the quest log, you interact more with the characters and the world itself. And yeah, that's some of the things that people are really coming back for and looking forward to. That whole community feeling of being in a guild in a different way, where later on in WoW, it's just changed. It's a bit difficult to explain, I think, to somebody who's never played the game before. That's why this is maybe a bit difficult, but I'm sure a lot of the listeners or viewers to this podcast can kind of relate to a lot of these things, to some extent at least. But yeah, if you haven't played the game before, like, it's hard to compare it to something that it used to be when you have no frame of reference, right? But yeah.
So very cool idea. A rare win for Blizzard. I feel like feels like they just fuck up after fuck up after fuck up, and they finally did something right. So, and yeah. I used to be a Blizzard fanboy back in the day.
Mm-hmm. I can tell you about the queues from my perspective. So I checked a couple of the European servers right now in PvP. The most populated ones have queues between 1 hour to about 3.5 hours to log in right now, to even get to play the game. I have been in queue for my server for the entirety of this podcast episode, and I might get in soon. It says estimated time to get in is 28 minutes. So it's well
perfect.
planned,
Perfect.
So yeah, like it's crazy how big popularity it has, and we'll see how it balances itself out. But they started with 2 servers. They quickly realized, okay, we have way too many people signing up. They made a third. Okay, we have way too many people. They made a fourth. Then they made another 3, and then another 3, or something like this. And still, some of the servers are massively populated, and others are catching up. So it looks to be a pretty big success for now. But as always with these games, like when the hype, we need to see how it survives the initial hype, right? Because there's tons of people that will play this, and maybe a lot of the people that play retail WoW will be like, actually, I don't like this as much. I will play the other game. Or people that come back to play Classic or maybe have that feeling of nostalgia and that it's nothing else than that. But the primary thing I've heard, the most like anecdotes or whatever, are very positive. So that makes me super hopeful. And I honestly think in the next couple of months, I think World of Warcraft will be a top 3 game on Twitch, which is pretty crazy because WoW has declined like crazy for 10 years in terms of like Twitch interaction.
Stupid
10 years is an
question.
exaggeration, like 5 years.
Do you pay for subscription still? Is it a different subscription than the other up-to-date WoW?
So the way they've implemented it is if you have a subscription to World of Warcraft, you have a subscription to everything. So
okay.
If you have a subscription to retail, you also have one to Classic. If you have one to Classic, you also have to retail. It's just you're subscribed to WoW, basically.
Okay.
And what you need to own the individual games. So I think to play WoW Classic, I think you do need to own the original game, which you can buy. It's pretty cheap. And then any expansion you want to play, you have to buy the expansions. But if you have a subscription, you can play any of them.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Very, very cool, syndereN. Thank you for that.
Yes, very cool.
Really appreciate it. Okay. I think that'll do it for this episode. Did you watch In Bruges while you were in China?
No, and I didn't check very thoroughly on the plane, so it might have been there. I don't think it was there, and if it was, I would have probably watched it just to spite you on the plane, because then you would have hated me for that.
I would have fucking hated
but
you,
no,
dude.
I haven't watched it
The
yet.
funny thing is, I watched it recently, like before I left for Jungle Jam. My friend had never watched it. He's like, "Oh, I heard you talking about it. I want to see it. All right, come over, bro."
Yeah.
He watched it and he loved it, syndereN.
He loved it?
Yeah, he loved it.
That's great. Okay, maybe I'll have to watch it soon.
I recommend, though, that there should be subtitles, though. I had to restart it with subtitles. It's sometimes difficult to understand. Well, maybe for you it would be fine. Nah, just watch it with subtitles. It's better.
Okay.
All right. Until next time, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Of course, we're going to be back on track now every Tuesday, 2 a.m. PST, 11 a.m. CEST on my Twitch channel. And then, of course, it'll be uploaded later to Dota Cinema and every single audio podcast you can think of. Until next time, have a great and fabulous day.
Bye.
Love you. Bye. We say things that don't mean anything, but thanks for listening. Yeah.